Fight, 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 fight.
Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. With me today is a very, very special guest returning to the show, Mr. Kyle Rittenhouse.
Nick, thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Yeah.
How have you been? What have you been up to?
Funny you should ask that, Kyle. I've been living life in all of its glory. It's, life is this wonderful cavalcade of ups and downs, as I'm sure you're aware. And, you just kind of like deal with it from time to time. But other than that, like I do the show, I got all these kids running around trying to make me lose all of my hair and skin and all of that stuff. But
it's falling out pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good, man. I've just been keeping busy. But I'm really glad you're back. So I want to kind of prep the audience. This is a special kind of interview that I've done a couple of, and I'm happy to have Kyle on for it. It is called Direct Examination. And so a couple little intro ground rules for it, guys. This is just sort of a very open conversation that I'm going to have with Kyle. And that means that for the first couple hours, I'm not actually going to read any super chats or anything like that. So if you like really want your super chat read right now, don't send it. It won't get addressed. We're just going to have a chat and talk about like what Kyle has been up to, what he's into, what's going on. And we're going to just follow the flow of the conversation that way. After that 2-hour mark, if he's got more time and wants to hang around, we can answer super chats if there are things he can answer. My guest does have pending litigation, so we're not going to get into that stuff or into anything that can interfere with that. But we're really just going to have a nice chat and hopefully bring a little bit of a different interview style than many of the other interviews that Kyle's been going through lately. And I'm sure we'll get to all of the fun stuff he's been up to. And that's basically it. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So please state your name for the record or whatever.
Would you like me to spell my last for the record?
You don't have to spell it because I don't know how the public school system is these days.
Not the greatest. I'm Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm sure you all know who I am because you guys watch Nick Rekieta's channel. I'm sorry for that again.
Wow.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. Well, why, Kyle, in your words, though, tell us why the hell anyone should know who you are.
Well, you may know me from the riots of 2020 in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where I was forced to defend myself with deadly force. Nick Rekieta covered my trial very extensively, covering every single day. I actually had the opportunity a couple weeks ago while working on my book to go back and watch the trial, and I chose Nick Rekieta's platform and watched it, and I enjoyed his added commentary, which was fantastic.
Well, thank you. It was such an interesting thing for me to like do that because I don't know if you know, that was the first time I'd had ever like fully watched a trial end to end on YouTube and like commented over it. It was just like, well, I was going to watch this thing, and so I might as well just watch it with all these people. But I didn't think it was going to like do what it did. It was just going to be me watching, and then it grew into this crazy like event. It was wild.
Yeah, I believe you were the largest streamer covering my trial. Like you were the most viewers of people tuning in.
Yeah, it was really close. If I wasn't, there was like a stream that Crowder did, and well, I think he was just stealing all my material. No, I'm just kidding. There was like one stream where Crowder was like a little bit bigger, and I was sitting, I'm like, I'm gonna catch you, son of a. But no, it was a lot of fun, and it was a completely new experience for me, and it was wild. But I was just caught up like watching you in this whole thing, like because it's easy for us to dehumanize you, right, and treat you as entertainment. But behind all that is you're there, and your literal life is hanging in the balance in a way that most of us hopefully never have to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope nobody ever has to go through what I went through. It was a very difficult time. It was a very challenging time, and it was a huge trial, both
Right.
mentally and literally.
Yeah. Now, I want to go back a hair to so you chose to rewatch this thing as you're writing your book, and we are going to talk about your book as we go. Um, so you're rewatching it presumably for research purposes. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, just to make sure that because it was a long trial. There was a lot of evidence presented. There was a lot of testimony. I just wanted to make sure I had all the testimony right when I wrote it in my book.
Right. How how was that rewatching the trial? Like, were you I guess how was it is the first question, but then kind of the follow-up is, were you like a self-insert in a movie, or was it like bringing back memories, or was it like almost completely separate? Because I have to imagine like you're quite a different person now than when you went in. So what
Oh,
was
absolutely. Well, first off, I had to like crop the screen because I just saw your face right next to it. Kidding, absolutely kidding. Um, it was difficult.
I feel like I'm at a roast.
Well, in the chat prior, we were roasting you. I was talking
Oh,
with some of your subscribers, and we were.
as is proper. As is proper.
Um, it was really difficult, actually. It was hard to see, like, wow, this was a big part of my life, and this could have gone any of which way. And thank God I won, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go back and watch it. And just thinking, like, if I was found guilty, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, you'd be well, a best case scenario, you'd be rotting away in a prison, right? Like that would be the good outcome. But as not to bring current politics in, not current politics, but current events into this, we'll say there's another high profile trial that occurred in a similar time, and that just involved a stabbing, right? Like so.
Yoda?
Yeah, it actually happened down in Arizona because that guy's in federal prison down there. But
Trial
but
happened
it's
in Minnesota.
right. Yeah, the trial's here, and I mean, regardless of what anybody thinks about that guy and his involvement or his guilt or innocence is irrelevant. I mean, the reality is it's a high profile person who ends up in this place where violence can occur at very high frequency rates, and he's going in with a reputation. I mean, you would have been in a pretty similar boat because there was a narrative about you.
Oh,
Like there still is.
absolutely. There's still a narrative, and the prison system failed him by letting him get stabbed. That guy, Derek, should never have gotten stabbed. That was unnecessary. He should have had somebody watching over him. 22 times is a lot of stab wounds before a prison guard intervenes.
Well, it depends. Because like if you're getting stabbed by Michael J. Fox, like you might get stabbed 22 times if they're really shallow. That was a Parkinson's joke. Sorry.
And
no, yeah.
This was like some 52-year-old guy who stabbed him 22 times.
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? And nobody notices for 22 stabs. I haven't seen the video. I don't know if they'll reach.
It's fast. That's the scare. Like they haven't released a video that I've seen, but I've seen plenty of stabbings with multiple stabbings. It's so fast. It's just like it's crazy. They look like a hibachi chef or whatever going to town on someone. But it's scary because like for me anyway, I you think of the human body and like we're pretty resilient. Like, it takes a lot you have to have a really sharp knife. You have to apply a lot of pressure to like injure yourself. Right. But when someone does have like a sharp implement and some force behind it, like it'll tear into you really quickly. So like when you watch people get stabbed, there's a lot of times where you'll see multiple stabs that are really, really fast. And it's scary because like that doesn't process. For me, it doesn't process. Oh, it's like you've seen The Matrix, right?
Yeah.
Remember that scene in The Matrix where the like helicopter crashes into the building, it makes a stupid ripple and then it explodes?
Yep.
It's almost like the Matrix is trying to compensate for something that's not supposed to happen. Is how I always took that scene. Like,
yeah. And I don't remember if you do criminal defense or civil, Nick, or business law.
I did criminal stuff mostly, but like then I do this now, but
the dark side.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think the person who stabbed Derek Chauvin, because Derek Chauvin is who he is, do you think that person is going to be found guilty at a federal trial? Do you think there's a jury that would send him to prison? Well, I mean, he's supposed to be released in 2026. He's facing second degree attempted homicide.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a jury that will convict him? Or do you think it's a jury that'll be like, no, Derek had what
You
was
had it
coming?
coming. It's an interesting question for me at a very present time, because the other day I put on this shirt. I was taking my kids roller skating. It's like, well, what do you do when you're going to go roller skating? You put on a shirt that says, ask me about jury nullification. And so I was wearing this jury nullification shirt, and my son comes up and he asked me, he's like, hey, Dad, what is jury nullification? I said, well, it's an interesting concept where we have a jury system for determining guilt. And if the jury does not determine guilt for whatever reason, the person's not guilty, which means they can effectively nullify a charge that they find unjust. He said, and that's a really good thing, but it can also be used in a really bad way. And we have evidence of it being used in a bad way in history, like in the South, right? To serve, I guess, the community's perspective on maybe racially motivated murders, where you could have jury nullification because they just don't like someone or whatever, right? And so it's interesting to think that jury nullification could go against could go in favor of the guy who attacked Chauvin. But I think on this one, they're like, this guy, I think they'd realize this guy's enough of a scumbag that I don't think that that's going to go that way. But it certainly could.
It would be interesting if they didn't tell the jury who he stabbed, who is
right, his alleged victim was. Yeah, I think and I think, of course, that'd be the one thing that they would be, well, how would they want to play that? I mean, I think it'd have to come out in the course of the trial, but yeah, it's an interesting thought to say your victim was a guy who had it coming, so we don't really care. But I think what seems my conspiracy portion is acting up here, because you've of course heard that this guy was a former federal informant.
Federal informant. He was the gang leader of the Mexican mafia. There's a lot of things about it that maybe they will convict him, but there's also a part of me saying, like, well, it depends on the jury. If the prosecution or the government messes up on their jury, which way it'll go.
I wonder if it'll go to jury trial at all.
You think
because if he's so I always use former informant as like with a grin, because you're like a former informant until you're an informant again, like until they just call you, like until they need your help. And so it's like, okay, well, is this guy going to get a sweetheart deal on this thing? Is where it's like, well, he's going to, or is there some evidence tampering going to happen that's going to cause, the charges to have to be dismissed for something? Like, is there going to be some screw up that leads to this thing being either severely reduced or just completely, omitted? And that'll be the interesting question too, because that'll confirm right there that's a current Fed and that there's federal involvement in it. But I always thought if the feds are going to kill Chauvin, they do it with fentanyl, like for the irony.
You think so?
Yeah, like that's, well, if I was going to do it and I was a government, that's how I would do it.
Are you a government? Are you an FBI asset?
Oh God, if I was in the government, I would shoot myself.
Perspective, and I'm curious to see how that trial will play out, because of course it's going to be a federal trial and there won't be any streaming of it because there's no cameras permitted in federal courthouses. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and we'll have to get our reports from articles and journalists, and we can know how much we can trust them.
Yeah, exactly. They're so good at just delivering the truth in an unbiased manner. Speaking as someone who, of course, is on the receiving end of a massively public trial, that I mean, clips of you and pictures of you from that trial are things that they're going to persist on the internet forever in many ways. Like, not just oh, there's there's the Rekieta Law channel where we watched your trial all the way. But I mean, whenever you make a tweet, there are people who post responses that are like either a frame that they're trying to like portray you in a certain light, right? And they'll grab a screenshot from the trial.
Yeah.
And so you have been on the side of this. What do you think about public trials? Do you think public trials are good, bad, neutral? Like, how does...
I think we have a First Amendment protected right, freedom of the press, freedom of speech. And I think we have a right to know what's going on in our courtrooms.
Well, okay, but let me do the Piers Morgan. Say, well, of course you've got a right, but on a human level, how does it feel to be in a public trial? Right?
How does it feel? Well, it's stressful. Your hair starts turning gray. You don't sleep at night. It sucks. That's how it feels, Mr. Morgan.
So the publicity of it though is like that. So literally, if ignoring the First Amendment right and say, well, we have this right to know what's going on. I agree with you 100%. I'm actually for entirely open trials everywhere outside of very, very limited circumstances. But you're the person who's been through it. Did you think that you having a public trial ultimately was good or bad, or is it just like it just is? So what do you do?
I don't really have a thought of it. Thinking back to it, I'm glad my trial was aired. I'm glad that people are able to go back and rewatch it, because my favorite argument is, I know you didn't watch a trial, go back and watch it.
Right.
And I can put a link.
And that's the entire like real benefit of it. I mean, that was the whole purpose of having the idea of a public trial, was that this happened in the open and the community was there, so that if the government was screwing someone over, the community got to see it. I think for as watching your trial, one of the most frustrating moments was when that FBI guy shows up with some alleged footage that they wanted to introduce out of nowhere, and none of us got to see any of it. Like, we're just sitting there and they're like, oh yeah, the camera like just goes off and there's no sound for a while, and we're like, what is this? This witness comes in, his identity had to be protected. It's like, well, it's not being protected in court, just on the broadcast. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. Like, I think that should have been aired. I don't understand why it wasn't. I'll be right back. I have to use the restroom.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So normally, guys, I wouldn't do any super chats, but while Kyle's stepping away, let's tackle a couple of these that have come in. If you did not hear, we're doing this direct examination style. So for the most part, we're not going to interrupt any conversation for super chats or anything like that. So if you want to have a super chat addressed specifically, wait until later in the show and we'll do that there. Let's talk about prepping. Says, why would a platform let this bigot have a place to speak? And why would a saint like Kyle visit him? That second one is a very good question. But yeah, the whole bigotry thing, I'll take it. I'll own it. Let's see. Oh, you're back. Cool. Good. Okay. So we were talking about the nature of public trials, and I think it is very interesting because, like I said, you went through it. It's stressful. You're on display, but ultimately you do get to say, here, I got to say my piece, and I was found not guilty. And you can see exactly why, because I said it. You can see all of the evidence that was presented, and it wasn't there. And so many people, when they talk about your case, the narrative that comes out is like, you have no idea what was happening here. Like, there is, like, you guys are talking about like charges that didn't exist, facts that didn't happen, all of this stuff, and that still persists. And you can't, like you said, you can direct them to the trial. But what do you think about, like you said, Chauvin's guy? It's in a federal prison. It'll probably be a federal trial. So what happened? What happens maybe behind closed doors? Should we open up the federal courts to public trials as well?
Oh, absolutely. I've been inside of federal courts to view other cases, not related to mine, but to view others. And it's kind of interesting. As you know, when you walk into a federal courthouse, you can't bring your phone into a courthouse unless you're an attorney or a judge. And it's just very weird because sometimes they'll have cubbies you can put your phone in, or you have to leave it in your vehicle. They're very strict on it. No electronics, no phones. When I went to federal court last, I had to do everything. All my notes were taken out a notepad, old school style, instead of typing it out on my laptop.
Right. It's that's the best part about having an attorney card. So you can just go, it's like, I'm an attorney, I gotta keep my phone with me for, you know, whatever. Schedules, calendars, anything
Legal
you need.
reasons.
Exactly. Definitely not watching Family Guy reruns while the judge is prattling on. But no,
Like,
it's an interesting I guess again, it's this exploring this concept of we're supposed to have open courts, but somehow the federal courts are insulated from it. And you've been in federal courthouses, like you said. Isn't it neat how different they are? Like just going in there from the state ones, like how nice those federal courthouses are.
I mean, I don't know if you've been to Kenosha County Courthouse, but that was a nice courthouse. But
That's true. You did have like 25-foot ceilings in that room. It was crazy.
believe it or not, it was a very small room, but it was such high ceilings, and there's like paintings on the ceiling. You probably see me a lot of times just looking up.
Looking at the murals.
There's just art painted on the ceilings.
Yeah, it's it did look like a nice state courthouse, but a lot of the state courthouses, like they're okay, but then you go in the federal ones and like it's like what where'd they get all this marble? Like everything's nice, it's big, it's grandiose, and then the judges sit like way up higher. You know, it's a whole different feel. It feels very imposing.
The secret door in a lot of federal courthouses behind the judge's bench. That was very interesting to me. That was interesting to see. I was like, wow, he has a secret door. You can't even tell it's there until he enters the chambers.
So you got this, like, I always just think of them as two separate things and we treat them separately, but I think it should be publicized. I think there's a chance that by the time that Chauvin's stabber goes to trial, we may actually see that changing. And I think one of the reasons is Trump, right? He's got these cases. He's got his Georgia case, which is going to be aired if it goes through, but he's got all these other federal cases. And one of the real questions is like, wait, what is more in the public interest than a former president being criminally indicted by his political opposition? How can the public not have access to that? Like, how can we keep that from being broadcast everywhere? And I think that's a compelling argument to start to break down this weird prohibition on recording federal trials.
I mean, there's a public interest in all these cases. One can argue that there's a public interest in every single case. The public has a right to know. We're able to see their criminal record. We're able to see what they're charged with. But how come we can't see the proceedings? How come we can't see the trial? I understand the protection of a jury. I understand not filming the jury and giving them numbers. I'm okay with that. I agree with that. That's the best way to protect people who didn't ask for it, other than doing their civil duties. But when it comes to a defendant, their record's already out there. You should be able to go in and watch the trial, and you shouldn't have to file FOIA requests to get some of these motions. They should be available to the public very easily.
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand why we're still in this place. We've seen so many times, even with very high profile, high public trials like yours, that they can get cameras in there. They can do this without interfering with the trial itself. Unlike in the past when cameras were bulky and had to have tons of like cables. I mean, you could really they could film this thing on phones, whatever, like just a little tripod, small camera, and have these things going and do a live broadcast.
GoPros and just change out the batteries every couple hours, and there you go. You have a trial.
Yeah, it's weird to think that they're holding on to this, but law moves slow, through everything. So we'll have to see where that goes. But you mentioned doing this for school. So you're going to watch trials for school? Is that what you were saying?
No, I'm not at school currently. I was watching it for work.
Oh, for work. Wait, what work? What work are you?
I work a 9 to 5, and
oh, you don't have to say where it is.
I'm not going to say where it is. Some of that is like going in and watching some of these trials, not trials, but motions and some of the things that do happen in federal court. Gotcha.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what is he doing there? So I don't know anything about that, but that's fine. Like, I don't know how much do you want to talk about that? I would assume you don't want to talk.
I mean, I posted a picture of it on my Twitter. It was Texas Gun Rights and National Association for Gun Rights versus the ATF on force reset triggers, We went in and we won that lawsuit. We got a preliminary injunction, and all of our members are protected to have force reset triggers and pistol braces. Very successful. The ATF didn't really know anything about firearms. We won. Judge O'Connor agreed.
Has it surprised you that government agencies in charge of regulating something tend to not know anything about it?
No.
So that wasn't a surprise to you?
No.
Have you always hated government as much as I do?
I'm not going to comment on that, Nick.
I kid. No, but it's what I guess that is an interesting sort of branch, though. Is where did you when did you start to see what I'll call it just a simple lack of maybe faith in government competence in regulation? That's a safe way to put that, right?
Well, the government has a motive, and they also have a job to do. Their job is to protect the people of the United States. Sometimes they fail to do that job. Sometimes they don't. They're human, and we aren't perfect.
Right.
But when you see these things happening to where they're just making stuff up, like I don't even know where they get half of this stuff, and it's just made up. It makes you think, like,
Right.
these are the people that are supposed to be protecting our rights and representing us.
And it's so you're talking about the pistol brace and the force reset triggers. And I guess part of the, if people aren't aware, like part of the confusion is that ATF was able to just go ahead and call those firearms. Like they're not, like they get classified as this particular category of firearms. They don't meet the definition that's laid out in the Gun Control Act, but they just have this, they have this ability to say, well, we are experts on this, so here's what they are.
I mean, you had the ATF director, if you've watched some of his testimonies against Congress, where he says, I'm not a firearms expert, but this is what the opinion is. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right. It's like, how are you ATF director and not a firearms expert? Like you could find like a liberal firearms expert, I get. I mean, they presumably exist is what I'm saying. So you could find someone who could be an expert on firearms and still like have a policy direction that goes with whatever the administration wants, right? Like you can figure that out. Like I don't know how else to analogize that, but you'd think they could do that. But instead they just have just a politician effectively. Like he's just a politician who's there to manage something that he doesn't know. It's weird, but it's so common in government to see that where they just get
maybe his strong suit is the alcohol and tobacco side, not the firearm side.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe he's an expert in those. Oh God, there's hope for me yet. I can run ATF.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So okay, in doing this though, in this 9-to-5 job where you end up watching trials, has that impacted your opinion on law and like legal process? Since I mean, you went through it one way and you went through it the hard way, like right? You're crawling through the muck, and now you're like riding in a Jeep. Does it change your perspective on the court system?
Oh, absolutely. I am very strong on the Constitution. I believe the law was written for a reason by our founding fathers, and they were very intentional when they wrote the Constitution. And I see a lot of what's been written not being followed through. We see a lot of censorship. We see a lot of rights being stripped away. We see First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fifth Amendment rights, if you saw in my case, just being taken. Like they don't honor that anymore. Thank God I had a constitutionalist judge who was able to admonish the prosecution for the state going into my Fifth Amendment rights and my right to remain silent, which I encourage everybody to do if you're ever charged with a crime, no matter what it is. Always invoke the Fifth because that's the smartest thing you can do.
It really is. And it's so uncomfortable for people because, well, let me ask you this. You invoked your right to the Fifth pretty much from the get-go, but how badly did you want to just tell your story though? Like that's
right. Oh, I really wanted to tell my story. I wanted to talk to somebody about what happened.
That's the hardest thing. Like you just want to tell someone why what you did wasn't wrong. And that's everybody goes through that. And that's why it's so freaking hard to get people to just not talk to the police or anybody else.
I mean, I support law enforcement. They do a hard job, but at the end of the day, their job is to build a case against you. They're not your friend.
I 100% agree. I've said so many of these things. It's great, but I'm not saying you got them from me. Don't take that the wrong way. It's just like, it's nice to see.
Got them from you, Nick.
Oh, okay, fine. But no, that's that's the whole purpose. And once you realize that purpose, you go, okay, well, no, they can just do their job and they can do it. They can do it it's not even the hard way. It's just the way. But now there is a point, if you want to talk about this, if you don't, it's fine. But there is a point where you decided not to keep up your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, right? Like you testified on your behalf.
Yeah, I waived my Fifth Amendment right to tell my story. I was ready to tell my story. I didn't just get hit in the head 4 times. My head was clear. I was able to communicate my story in an effective way that didn't hurt me, if that makes sense.
Right. No, and I think it was ultimately the right move. A lot of us watching, of course, if you watch back, you saw we weren't sure if that was the right move at all.
Yeah, there was times of it to where you guys were worried about my testimony. In the end, we figured out that was the best. And as I've told you before, a lot of people may have thought it was stupid when I took the stand because we had all the evidence, but we did 3 mock trials. Same day, 2 juries heard me testify, 1 jury did not. The jury who didn't hear me testify wasn't able to reach a verdict. The juries who did hear me testify was outright not guilty on both panels.
Yeah, and that's great having that jury research and being able to do that, because that can make the decision right there, and that probably answers a lot of people's questions. But I the big worry that we all had is like, we don't know you, right? And you're this guy who, if you do anything wrong on the stand, it's prison for life, right?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
And so we're all like, oh God, no, we don't think this kid needs to. Sorry, we weren't trying to be condescending, but at the time, you're pretty young. I mean, you're still like kind of young. But
I'm 20 years old. I was 18 at the time.
You're like 20, but you're going on like 60 in legal years because you had to go through all that bullshit. But
it stresses me out, Nick.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, we were so concerned. Like, it's like if he says anything wrong, and who your opposition was, Binger and Krause. They were just waiting for anything. Like, that was the whole, in my opinion, that was the whole gambit of the trial. Because it's like, why are they bringing these charges? Even when I first saw the complaint, I was just, this reads like a defense motion for dismissal. So why are they bringing these charges? And it looked like they just took a handful of darts and threw them at the wall and hoped one of them would hit a dartboard.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. One of my things is, if I ever become an attorney, I don't know if I will. I would like to be an attorney one day, but I really want to go to Kenosha if I do become a lawyer, and I want to represent somebody out of Kenosha County, and I want to go up against Assistant District Attorney Binger.
Is he still an ADA there in Kenosha?
Yeah, he'll be an ADA the rest of his life. Nobody's gonna elect that guy to DA.
Poor fluffer boy.
Poor fluffer boy. Same with Lunchbox. I would love to challenge a case against those two.
Oh, yeah, I would love to challenge a case against Lunchbox, just not a case of anything like chicken sandwiches or anything like that. I mean, that guy.
You don't want to go up against food with Lunchbox. I like food, as we can all tell.
I was going to say you look a little trimmer than before, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're probably wrong. It's because how I'm sitting. I learned how to work the angles of the camera.
Oh, yeah. You hired like Instagram girls or whatever to teach you. Just kidding. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I do want to get into this whole
comment. He was paid by the pound.
I hope not. Kenosha's broke. No, it's I do want to get into this transition from you being a media person, right? Because you're a media target. From the time of the shooting through the trial, you're a media target. And then afterwards, you're a media target. But you're also now like a social media person. Like that's part of your personality. You have to go around. Right now, you've got this book that I want to get into right after this. But you've got this book, and you're doing interviews. Like you're on my show, but you're on Piers Morgan, right? Like the biggest guy around. I don't want to be too mean to Piers, but no, you're going on these huge shows as well. And so that's part of what you do. How has that transition been to being an incidental media personality to an intentional media personality?
Well, Nick, I'm going to be honest. It's a little bit exhausting. It takes a lot out of you after an interview, and you're just ready to lay down and just go to bed.
Right. I would think, especially with someone like Piers, where he's like not quite hostile, but he's not.
I was pretty ticked off after that interview. If I was honest, I was pretty angry at that. I was like, how could somebody ask the questions he asked? Like,
well, because he's an asshole.
Well, that is.
And he thinks that that's like what Pierce doesn't realize is that him being an asshole isn't what makes him an interviewer that they've put in place. Like, makes him an interviewer that they put in place is that they hired him, and now that's just where he is. But he thinks that the asshole shtick is what he needs to do. But he had to ask the tough question. You know, that was his whole thing. I have to ask the tough questions. It's like, well, those weren't good questions, though. Like, that wasn't. I was actually very upset at those questions when I saw them. I was like, come on, man.
Me too.
Yeah. But so it's exhausting to do this thing, but you kind of like, you almost have to, because it's either you do it or they do it for you. Right. Is that kind of how you feel about that? Or?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I have a right to clear my name just like anybody else does. I have a right to defend myself in not just a criminal trial or civil trial, but in the public opinion. I have that right.
No, I 100% agree. And now, as part of that, this smooth transition, you've written a book about this whole thing. So how did that come about? Tell us about the book. We'll of course give a link for people to buy it and stuff like that. But tell us about this book and what do you go? You know what I want to do? I want to put like a whole bunch of words down on paper.
Absolutely. So the book is titled Acquitted. It's available for pre-order at rittenhousebook.com. And the reason for writing the book is I really wanted to clear the narrative. I really wanted to come out there and just tell everything. I was painted as this privileged kid who had everything handed to me growing up, when that's just not true. I had a mom who was working 8 hours a week to put food on the table, and I had a drug addict dad. And I just wanted to clear that whole narrative of that I had everything handed to me. I wanted to talk about the trial and talk about how that affected me, and that time in my life that was a very big part of my life that will follow me for the rest of it, and just put all the false narratives to rest. For anybody that's willing to read it, any liberal who's willing to read it, I'm hoping it kind of opens their eyes and maybe changes their stand on some things. And I'm hoping that it helps people in other similar situations that are being called these things, being called privilege, being called a white supremacist, growing up with struggles, and it helps them through their time in need, and they're able to reflect on that and get the support they need through a book.
Yeah, it's it was so interesting. You used the word privilege, and I mean that even came out the Piers interview, right? He said it was your privilege that got you. Well, he didn't say it. He said he had that nice media way of saying it by saying, well, some people say it's your privilege that got you acquitted. And it was like, wait, who says this actually, Piers? Like, what? Who's actually out there going, you know what got Kyle Rittenhouse acquitted was his privilege. It's like, I don't think that privilege played any part in that fiasco at all. If there was any amount of privilege involved, that trial should have never gone to trial. Honestly, it just should have never gone to trial in the first place. But that alone diffuses the notion that privilege was at play to me.
Absolutely.
I didn't know if you had any more on that. It's like I felt like I accidentally almost cut you off.
No, you didn't cut me off. I finished.
Okay, good.
Kind of questioning, Nick. Next
No,
question, please.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Well,
No, but yeah, that's one of the things that really bothered me with Piers, and it's part of an overall narrative. How do you feel being attached to the narrative of? I mean, I think I know, obviously, but because we're talking about it, but to this narrative of white privilege and this greater like social context, because it seemed at trial and even kind of all around it, like you were 17 when this happened, and then by the time trial comes around, you're 18, I guess.
yep,
Right?
I was 18.
And so then you're there, and you didn't seem to be. I'm not going to say that you had no concept of politics or anything, but you didn't seem to be particularly motivated in a way that was so obviously black and white on social media. Like you were pigeonholed into that, it seemed like, and then this privilege is just ascribed to you. So you became like this face of like white something. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but they definitely tried to apply that to you. How is that being attached to that? And did that change you?
This was a case that had nothing to do with politics. It had to do with the right to self-defense. And to this day, I still agree that my case had my political affiliations, who I'm going to vote for, who I support, who I will endorse, has nothing to do with what happened. Those are my own opinions. This could have happened to a liberal, somebody who voted for Joe Biden, somebody who voted for Gavin Newsom, and it wouldn't change the outcome. It shouldn't change the outcome of a trial. It shouldn't change if they should be charged or not. It should be based on the facts of what happened. There is no room for politics in a criminal case. I don't care what the charges are, unless it's like going up against like threats against people of Congress or the president.
Right, unless it's specifically political.
Unless it's like specifically indicated, I did this because Joe Biden is my president.
Right. So without getting into details about where you sit politically at any point, though, did sort of being assigned this political prominence and position, not just by like, I don't want to excuse even all of us, like, for me, like your case obviously is about you and the facts, but there is this underlying political narrative that matters to people like me about your right to self-defense, your right to, keep and bear arms. Those are issues that are important. They tend to lie on one side of the aisle more than the other. And so like, even if we weren't trying to, there is this tendency to kind of push you into the right, from our perspective. And then there's more overt attempts. What's up, doggo? There are more overt attempts to nefariously put you into like some specific category of the right to make you into like an evil racist or whatever. But like, did that from all sides, did that change kind of your political outlook or political positions at all?
A little bit. It more changed to, in politics now, I focus on truth and people that are actually going to follow through with what they promise. And I'll read through their policy, but my big thing is that they're going to follow the Constitution and they're going to put out what our founding fathers have said. Milo, do you have a comment on that? So fun fact, I actually have an entire chapter in my book about my dog. I actually dedicated the book to him, and he's been a great dog. He helped me a lot through the trial. I see you're opening something that helped you a lot through your trials.
through all of them. Yeah, I've got, you are not old enough. I've got some Blue Run Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So it's a nice little beverage. But so yeah, so your dog helped you through the trials. Did you find that it was hard to keep up with other, I guess, resources that might have helped you, friends, family? Did you find a lack of support or overwhelming support in that, in your, I guess, your normal social groups?
I don't really talk to anybody in my normal social groups anymore. It's really hard to find who you can trust and who's going to stand by you. Um,
Right.
I found that making new friends is probably better. People who are in similar situations, people who maybe have a deeper understanding of what you go through, because it's hard to find that. It's really hard to find that these days.
Yeah, and it's I think one unfortunate byproduct of knowing someone, right? Like you know someone and then they go through this is we had the luxury of not knowing a damn thing about you, right? So you're this blank slate, and we're putting a puzzle together on top of that as we learn and watch through, even from the initial incident up through everything, where we're like, holy cats, this 17-year-old guy is attacked in the middle of this riot. He he defends himself. You have a remarkable lack of any sort of collateral damage, and everybody's like, this is this thing that happens. Who the heck is this guy? And then we're all like trying to learn about you, and there's always like a media scramble, like, who is Kyle Rittenhouse, like Deadspin or whatever. They'll have like a bullet point article about you. It's like, he went to high school here. Here's this Facebook post from 2007. It's like, wait, what the hell?
And none of that's just like a lot of that is just they just got it so wrong. They tried to paint me as somebody I wasn't. They tried to figure out who I was, and just none of that was true. And I just looked at it. I'm like, wow, how can somebody be so wrong about something so obvious?
Because they didn't care what the truth was. They just wanted the people to click on the article about you, right? Like, because they just wanted the ads to sell.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
but so with that though, I think there comes there's a luxury in us getting to see you as this blank slate and putting the pieces together. Even if some of the information that comes in is wrong, we're able to kind of watch and build. But someone who knows you, like, there's no way around the fact that they're going to look at every situation they've ever been in with you and apply that to your to the current situation, right? And things that would have nothing to do with it, but they'll be like, oh, okay, now I see, or like they can draw these conclusions about you. And I think that is kind of what taints those friendships.
Absolutely, Nick. A lot of the people will be like, oh wow, they'll believe what was said and they won't want to be your friend anymore out of fear that their life is going to be slandered or they're going to be um, talked bad upon, and they just don't want to associate with it.
Yeah, it's very inconvenient for them. Too that's got to be rough, right? Like that their lives are so inconvenienced.
Sorry, sorry, I inconvenienced you.
So have you mentioned it? You think it's better to make new friends? Have you found it to be easy or difficult to make new friends? Like, because again, now you do come with a stigma, right, of who you are, and so how have you approached that?
Um, it's very interesting actually. I really have to get to know somebody first, and I have to spend a lot of time with them. Um, and just like talking to them, and then like sometimes I'll ask them trick questions that I already know the answer to see if I'm going to get the truth. Um, something like what lawyers do actually. um,
And the cool thing is you have some really great like mentors.
yeah, Mark
Um,
Richards. Um, I
and
would say Nick Rekieta, but he's not practicing right now. He's just a
okay,
YouTube
okay.
lawyer. I gotta throw this down
He's
something.
digging deep. He's digging deep. No, and actually, I think first of all, my favorite attorney of yours is Natalie Wisco.
Totally great attorney.
She's awesome. But that's because she's the only one I've talked to. So Mark and Corey still have a chance to be my best friend. But no, watching Corey Shirafisi, if
Trusting.
Shirafisi, Corey, some brand of Italian last name,
Trusting.
watching him eviscerate people on cross-examination was one of the most fun parts of the trial. He was so damn good at cross.
Yeah. Tell me about it. I was sitting on the other side of him when he was preparing me for trial. He was the one who
Ooh,
cross-examined me during all of our mock trials and all of our preps. So trust me, I know.
yeah. Did you hate him during that time a little bit?
No, I didn't hate him. There's definitely times where I didn't want to be in the same room with him after. I have a lot of respect for Corey. He's a great attorney. Without him, I would have been found guilty.
Well, what I meant by I didn't mean like actually hate, but like
when he
okay,
was asking me those questions, there was
Yeah.
some animosity. There was some.
so let's without getting into you go as far into details as you want, but I think maybe people don't understand what we're talking about here. So you're prepping for trial. I don't know when you made like on the timeline you've made the decision to go to take the stand and testify on your behalf, but even I would assume before you even made that decision, you were already doing that prep work because you had to do the mock juries, right?
We made the decision that it's probably best for me to testify. The first time I met Mark, we had that conversation. Without going too much into what was said in that conversation,
Yeah,
without
don't do that.
breaking privilege.
Right. So you made it very early on.
It was a very early on decision.
And so as you're prepping for first your mock jury trials, and then I'm guessing he's the guy who's cross-examining you during that the mock juries that you did, like the test trials, right?
Yes, he was.
So that even if you're not doing that, when you're prepping for your testimony, and that testimony is going to matter, you bring in someone and their job is to be worse than the state will be. Like their job is to be brutal, and you don't necessarily have the benefit of a judge to respond to objections because like that's not the point of the exercise. So that's what I was asking him is how was that? Because I'm sure he had to ask you really tough questions, probably a bunch of stuff that we'll never even get to know about because it wouldn't be admissible at trial, but you had to be ready for that question to come up, even if it was going to be objected to and thrown out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Corey was the prosecutor during the mock trials. He did the opening statements. He did the closing statements. He did the arguments. And essentially his job was to try to make me look guilty to the mock jury.
What was his strategy? Was it similar to Binger's and Krause's?
No.
It was probably way better.
Yeah, without going too much into it, it was better than the government's.
Well, I know it was better than theirs because from jump, they had a shitty strategy.
I mean, my dog could have came up with a better strategy than the government.
Yeah, that was the weirdest part of like all of this, watching it from the outside. We're like, what are they doing here? And again, from the complaint itself, from the criminal complaint comes out is like, who wrote this? And then if this is what they're writing, why are they going to trial? And the places they tried to tag you and really like, I guess, twist the knife weren't great.
Violating my Fifth Amendment right. So you spoke to the media, but you didn't talk to the police when you turned yourself in.
Yeah. It's like, I don't have to. And you can't ask that question, actually.
Did you see my face when he said that?
Oh yeah. It was great.
Like, did that just happen? Like, I'm no lawyer, but I don't think that's okay. I don't think that's a question.
If I remember right, that was Mark Richards' first and only objection the entire trial.
Yeah, so our whole thing was all those questions. We weren't going to object to anything. We were going to let them away unless it was in a pretrial motion or unless it was something that like we knew he couldn't go into, because there was no point, because it makes us look weak. It puts in a Wisconsin jury, they look at it, they're told to ignore objections and not put any weight to them. A jury's going to put weight to objection. They're going to think, well,
yeah, why don't you want to hear this?
Yeah.
Did Richards and Corey, I'm going to never say his last name again. Did Richards and Corey, did they have kind of an idea about Judge Schrader? Because he was extremely permissive.
He was the judge we wanted for a trial. We didn't want to, if I was found guilty, it didn't matter what judge I had for sentencing, but he is a terrible judge on sentencing. He follows the rule of law, and he sentenced to the guidelines of the sentencing guidelines.
Okay.
Which a lot of judges do, but he's a very strict sentencer.
Sure.
He is a very fair judge. He is one of the fairest judges out there. He just retired. Congratulations to his retirement. But he is very fair, and he gave me a fair trial, and he made sure the Constitution was upheld, and he made sure my rights were upheld, and he made sure the public's rights were upheld.
I'm going to let that rest where it is, and we'll go on from there. Because I have some minor disagreements with Judge Schrader. I mean, I'm glad that the trial worked out the way it did, but I have
okay
some
with being disagreed with, Nick. You can disagree with me.
Well, I just like I think he didn't actually protect your Fifth Amendment rights in the way he should. I thought that should have been game over, honestly. Um, I thought that was a moment where it should have been game over. And then I thought as the trial persisted on, I was really frustrated by his inability to actually uphold an objection against Binger or Krause when they would just bitch about it enough until he would kind of like give them what they wanted. So those things did bother me. And I think the admission of some of the digital evidence that was over objection was very problematic. And I think it was because he didn't understand it. And when experts were brought in to explain it, that and they did the outside the presence of the jury initial voir dire of the expert, that should have been the time where the objection was just upheld, rather than bringing in this testimonial evidence about like interpolation and stuff like that it just really didn't belong in the trial. And in my opinion, neither did the video that was zoomed in from a drone, like on an iPhone, is the weirdest shit ever to allow in. Yeah, like, so I had real problems with, at first I really liked Judge Schrader at the beginning of the trial. By the end of it, I was very, very frustrated with his decision-making process in that way. But I'm not like, that's just me over here, right? Like I'm not trying to dump on him too much. I mean, I can.
I mean, I think he was a fair judge. That's my opinion.
You are out of prison and he was part of that. That's a good thing. So like,
absolutely. So I like Judge Schrader. I think he was a fair judge, and I see where you're coming from with the Fifth Amendment, but I think he handled that appropriately based on how he admonished the prosecutor and how he had to bite his tongue on certain things.
Yeah, it's I mean, I did like that. I really did like when he would dress them down. I just wish he would have like called them by their full names and stuff.
Thomas Binger, how many times do I have to tell you to not violate Fifth Amendment rights?
Wait, isn't his middle name Claire? Like, you should have called him Thomas Claire Binger.
Thomas Claire Binger. What do I have to tell you? Go to your room.
Okay, speaking of Binger, did you ever listen to the
Star Wars podcast with the one guy?
Yeah, his like friend who did that weird interview with him, or he had that one, and then he had another one with the New York lawyer. Yeah,
it made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, they were strange, weren't they?
It was a very weird time, and I just was very uncomfortable with those interviews. I watched maybe both of them for about 5-10 minutes, and then I couldn't. I physically could not listen to his voice.
If you ever want to go back, I think I had several lawyers on, and we listened to the New York one. It took us 2 episodes to get through. It was a lot of drinking involved listening to that. And it was like, what the hell is happening here? It was such a strange thing.
One of these days, you're going to have to get me on with all of your lawyer friends, and we're going to have to go through, if he ever does another interview, or go through one of those interviews together.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I think we'll have volunteers for that one. We'll work on setting that up, because that would be a blast. Yeah, especially if you haven't actually listened to the whole interview of either of those. We could just pick one and do it. That would be great.
Oh, yeah. And then I'm not saying now, and I'm not saying ever, because I probably will never want to do it, but maybe we'll do a remock of the trials. Kidding.
I would not want to do that, dude. That is no, see, in a weird way. Now I'm like all for levity in all circumstances all the time. Obviously, I think I assume that you can appreciate this in some way. Life can get so serious so fast that I try to keep it kind of light as often as possible. But I do think that there are some things that should remain sacred. And I think for you, your trial should remain as it is, because any even treatment of it like that, while funny in concept, to do like a mock-up of the trial, it would serve this potential to undermine what happened, right?
Well, the civil trials aren't going to be publicized, so we'll go ahead and do the civil trials.
Wait, they're not going to be publicized?
They'll be publicized, but they're not going to be filmed.
Oh, okay.
Because it's in a federal courtroom.
Oh, yeah, the civil trials are federal. Okay. Well, that's depressing.
Well, maybe you're just gonna have to fly down to Milwaukee because they're gonna be taking place in Milwaukee, and you can come out, you can meet me, you can watch the trials in
Ooh.
person.
When are they?
I have no idea. I'll let you know when I figure that out.
I am not opposed to going and spending some time out there, and just because it's that's about a 6-hour drive for me. I just drive
From
over.
Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, from like so I'm like 2 hours west of the Twin
I
Cities.
know you're right. You don't have to dox yourself.
Everybody knows. I'm a small town lawyer, Spicer, Minnesota. It's so cool, or whatever. You can find me on Google. You can also find all sorts of controversial stuff about me, but that's great. The most fun. But yeah, so it's like I think to Milwaukee, it's like 6 hours because it's like 8 hours to Chicago from here. So
Yeah, you just hop on the highway and you're there.
yeah.
I
Well,
think it's a good shot.
if it's in spring or summer, I have no problem doing that because I can drive my car.
You don't want to go on the icy Midwest roads in
No,
end of January, February.
I hate all
Sometimes
of them.
April.
I hate the Midwest. It's cold.
You've lived there. I don't live there anymore. I got out of that cold.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about that too much, Kyle. Some people have to defend
You guys have
themselves from an
snow yet?
it was snowing very lightly today. We had that actual like one good part about winter, like that frost on everything where all the trees are like coated in this like really pretty just white frost in the kind of early morning to mid or to lunchtime, and then it starts to melt and it's just beautiful out. Like that's cool. And then you go, oh God, that means it's gonna be fucking freezing soon. It's terrible.
What,
But
you got 50 degrees weather now?
yeah, it's gonna be back up in the 40s this week,
So
and then it's gonna drop.
a couple of weeks ago, I was waking up, getting ready, going to work, and I was like, "Oh, it looks warm out." I get out, my car is covered in frost, and I don't own an ice scraper anymore. I live in Texas. I'm like, I don't need an ice scraper. I was sitting there with my driver's license scraping my window so I can see out of it.
You
No
will
gloves in a hoodie.
you will never be in more danger than in a snowstorm on a highway in Texas.
Yeah,
'Cause
they don't know how to drive in that. I grew up in that. I
right.
learned how to drive in snow, and Texas people did not.
No, and they have like one plow for the entire state.
Do they really?
I don't know. It's always like in some back road in Dallas. It's like, why are you here? Like, go be useful. No, it's terrible when it snows there because you think like Armageddon is occurring. Like cars are just careening off the road all over the place.
It's a good business idea. Traveling snowplows.
Yeah, there you go. We'll hit Arizona next, but yeah, okay. So that is kind of interesting. You did have to kind of relocate your life, right?
A little bit. Yep.
Why is that?
Do you think it's safe for me to live in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Nick?
Nope, not at all. But you didn't live in Kenosha, Wisconsin. You
think
lived
it's
across state lines.
Do you think it's safe for me to live 20 minutes from Kenosha, Wisconsin, in Antioch, Illinois?
It's a whole other state, Kyle.
Ugh.
How many times did you cross state lines in your life? Would you estimate?
Jeez, I can't even give an accurate representation. I was there practically every day.
So many times that he can't even count them.
Literally went grocery shopping there, went to the beaches there.
The beaches of Kenosha?
Have you been to Kenosha before?
No, that sounds like the worst Garth Brooks song I've ever heard.
They have great beaches.
Like, is there like a big lake?
Lake Michigan. It's
okay. So I didn't realize it's on Lake Michigan.
yeah, I mean
I don't know geography.
It's a coastal town.
Oh, okay.
Racine, you'll maybe get lucky and find a heroin needle or something in the sand. Kenosha, the beaches are pretty clean, pretty nice. They do a good job keeping it clean there. Beaches are good there. I swam there. I would go to a lot of the lakes. As you know, you're from Minnesota.
Yeah, I hate all the lakes though because they're cold.
They're not that cold. Superior is pretty cold.
Superior's really cold.
Yeah, Superior is freezing.
It's hypothermia temperatures in the summer.
What is it? 32 year round? Right?
It's so cold.
Right above freezing.
It's awful. Like if you like, it's crystal clear. Like it's beautiful, but because it's so cold, I think because maybe the fish don't live in it. I don't know. It's I'm not a big fan of lakes though.
Do you not know how to swim, Nick?
Almost said the joke. I almost said, no, I know how to swim. I don't like being cold in the water. That's
Well, as you know, in a prior lifetime, I was a swim instructor. I taught people how to swim.
oh
So,
yeah. Were you a lifeguard?
yep, I was a lifeguard and a swim
Mm,
instructor.
but you didn't have sufficient uh medical training.
That's what the government tried to say. I was a firefighter EMT cadet. I was a lifeguard. I was a police explorer. I had a pretty
Were you
good.
CPR certified?
Yes, I was.
Oh, me too. It's not that impressive. I'm just kidding.
I
No,
know. Everybody gets CPR certified. I actually encourage people to go out and get CPR certified.
yeah. Well, I had to because I was a foster parent, and so you had to get CPR certified. And you had to do the extra, like, I think there's like an extra hour of training for babies and stuff. So we had to do
Yeah,
that.
baby CPR is way different than human CPR.
Right. Like you spike them like a football. That's how you.
Adult CPR is a lot different than baby CPR.
Yeah. Well, you spike the babies like a football, and then like adults. No, it is interesting though that they. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because you had a significant amount of like first aid, first response training, and they just try to pretend like you didn't. And I still see it all the time on your posts. People are like, you pretended to be a medic, and you're like, well, I mean, you don't respond, but it's like, well, I mean, I don't know that he pretended to be a medic. He's just a guy with a medical kit who could do first aid, which is actually what you want until people arrive. Like that's above like 95% of the population. So why are we complaining about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I was certified in stop the bleed, basic life support. Stop the bleed is essentially major medical trauma. So you got in a car accident and you are hemorrhaging from your arm and squirting blood because you have an arterial bleed.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to stop that bleeding with a tourniquet, pack wounds, put a chest seal on, and do a lot of sort of like advanced medical care, more advanced than basic life support with that trauma training I received.
I really want to ask if you know how to do significant trauma treatment for like a high-speed projectile through maybe like a bicep, but I'm not going to ask that because like I don't know where that would be relevant. But no, it's pretty interesting though, because the government tried to frame you as this guy who knows literally nothing about any of this medical stuff, but you do. Like you said, you listed certifications.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. I'm trying not to be me. Okay. So how is that? I guess is that I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this next thing. And it's not anything controversial at all.
It's probably controversial. Whenever they say it's not so
No.
100% controversial.
It's just have you like kept up with the medical stuff? Is that something that you've maintained? Like, because clearly you had a passion for helping people. Like, not to be sappy, but you're like one of those annoying. You're like, oh, you're cleaning off graffiti or whatever in that one picture. I wanted to smack you so bad. Like cleaning off graffiti. What is this?
I mean, I had a passion for helping people. I wanted to help people, and I was there scrubbing graffiti off the wall because it was vandalized. Those are where people go to school. Young kids go to school, and they shouldn't have to see. We're on YouTube, so I'm going to watch my language so you don't get demonetized.
Oh, no, say whatever you want. You're fine.
Well, they had like fuck 12, a bunch of other slurs like fuck the police.
Fuck 12.
It's essentially fuck the police, but a worse term.
Okay.
It's referring to killing police officers. So I was scrubbing that graffiti off of the walls so the children who go to those schools didn't have to read that, because that's just not something you want your 6th grade child reading. I don't know.
I mean, shouldn't we just be happy that 6th graders are reading in public schools finally? But have you maintained your passion for like public service and like helping people, or has that refocused too? Because like, I don't want to put an answer in your mouth, but just to frame the question the way I'm thinking about it, for me.
So I still keep up with my training a little bit to an extent. I'm out of certification or everything, but I still carry like a personal IFAC with me for like if I get injured, I'm able to help myself.
What's an
And
IFAC? I don't know. I don't actually know what that is.
individual first aid kit,
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Gotcha.
tourniquet, chest seals, blood clotting, wound packing stuff. That stuff is stuff I carry for myself. So if I ever get hurt, I'm able to use that on myself. But
Right.
I'm worried about getting sued if I help anybody else. So
It's becoming, we're supposed to have laws to protect from that, but
Good
it's
Samaritan.
becoming scarier.
When I was a lifeguard, I had to learn all about the Good Samaritan law. If I was ever out in public, I had a duty to respond while I was at work. There was one emergency situation to where we had to call an ambulance at work. We had a guy have a heart attack, stopped breathing when I was a lifeguard, and had to go through the whole 9 yards of helping the guy. We had a duty to as we're working, but you don't have a duty to help when you are a citizen out on the street. It's the right thing to do, but now I worry about being sued if I help somebody.
Right. And especially your higher profile, it changes every calculation, right? Like someone gets whatever from Kyle Rittenhouse, like you are a target because there's a stigma about you, no matter what, like you do with the rest of your life.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Everything I do is under a microscope. Everything I say is under a microscope. There's probably things in this interview that I've said that people are going to rail against and scrutinize.
Oh my gosh. Everything we said in this interview is all jokes. Everybody should just go away. No, like, and I hate that you're constrained in any way in talking, because you shouldn't be. There's nothing, and I don't think there's anything you've said in this interview that merits any like actual microscoping, but that's not the way it goes, right? Everybody will do it no matter what happens. And with that, I have to bring one thing under a microscope. CPR has changed over the years, right? Quite a bit. At one point, the training for CPR involved mouth to mouth.
So I actually learned 30 to 2, 30 compressions, 2 rescue breaths.
Yeah.
Because in a drowning patient, you still want to clear their airway because they have water in their lungs. You want to deliver 2 rescue breaths and then do compressions 30 to 2. So
Right.
I learned the older method. Now they train just CPR when they do CPR classes.
Right. Yeah. And I learned both because when I learned CPR back in high school, it was I don't think it was 30 to 2. I think it was like 10 to 2 or 50. Yeah, it was that, I think. And then now, yeah, and when I learned again as a foster parent, it was after they had switched. But so then that leads me to my next question. Did you have to kiss the man that you rescued?
No, I didn't kiss the man I rescued. There's these great things they make called CPR masks. If you've ever seen a BVM, a bag valve mask.
Yeah, you had that little pumpy thing, right?
Yeah, and there's a face seal that goes on it that covers their mouth and nose. But they also make a CPR mouth-to-mouth version of that has a filter on it that protects you from if they vomit, because as you know, they taught you in the CPR, a lot of people when you're delivering compressions and rescue breathing, they have a tendency to vomit whatever's in their lungs.
Yeah, it's and that was one of the cool things. That's always one of the cool things about having a kit or something, is because you have that. It's like a mask and it's got a tube up there and it forms a seal around the mouth and you blow into that rather than going lip to lip. Because now we of course have to worry about bloodborne pathogens.
I had to get certified in bloodborne pathogens and learn all about the nasty, gross stuff that a lot of people carry on them, such as HIV, hepatitis, AIDS. And we had to learn how to stay safe from that person because you don't know if they're a carrier.
Right. And imagine during COVID, well, I can't save this guy. It's like that'd be very dangerous for me. I might get COVID. I have to go home.
Do they have a 6-foot rule for COVID CPR?
Yeah. You got a really long tube to that mask. It's like they repurposed all the beer bongs. They just slap that over someone. You stand way away.
You're gonna need an air compressor at that point.
Oh my God. So sorry, getting back to the question though, it sounds like you're kind of your passion for public service has been tainted a little bit
I
because
still want to help people, and I'd be blessed to have a career in public safety. But nowadays, I'm just so worried that I'm going to get sued. Like somebody didn't agree with me, and I helped them, and they're like, "Oh well, I'm going to make something up, and I'm going to sue you. You assaulted me for doing CPR. You broke one of my ribs." As you
right.
know, they taught you in in your class as well. It's very common when you're doing CPR that ribs break.
Yeah, especially when you specialize in CPR with old women. No, but it's just because like you have to vigorously do CPR. Like that's the whole purpose. You have to get past all of this tissue, and some people have a lot, right? Like some people are thicker than others. You have to get past all that. You've got a rib cage, and you have to manually compress the heart with pressure, and so that causes a lot of rib breaking and stuff. And that's been one of the big concerns about this is, oh well, I didn't consent to this. It's like a medical battery. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? I saved your life.
Like they'll go on and say, "Well, I was a DNR. I had DNR tattooed on my chest." And when I learned, we were told not to honor DNR tattoos or DNR tags because you only honor DNR if it's at a hospital and their medical power of attorney has signed off on it, they've signed off on it, and a doctor has signed off on it. You don't honor it out on the street. You don't honor it at the pool when you're a lifeguard.
I never thought I would hear something so emo as tattooing "Do not resuscitate" on yourself.
It's a real thing.
They do those.
I have heard stories from paramedic friends that they've seen DNR tattooed on people's chests, and the only time paramedics don't resuscitate is if they're at a nursing home or if they're on hospice at home, and they have their chart there that says DNR, do not resuscitate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's that's just wild that someone would just tattoo that on themselves. It's like, oh my God, how much My Chemical Romance are you listening to? If I'm gonna go, like, I'm not gonna do it myself.
Are you a Green Day person or heavy metal?
Oh, dude, my music tastes are so varied. Like,
Emo and dark.
I love Taylor Swift, like, unironically.
You're a Swiftie.
Her old stuff more than her new stuff. But I also I love Slipknot. My favorite band ever was probably Stone Temple Pilots before that guy decided to die.
Never heard of them.
You've never heard of Stone Temple Pilots?
No, I'm 20 years old, Nick. You grew up when dinosaurs roamed the earth. You have what, kids my age?
So, Kyle, let's talk about your upcoming no, just kidding. All right, Kyle. How about Slipknot? Was Slipknot cool? Yeah. Well, I saw Slipknot in concert while you were in diapers.
I used to listen to rock. I don't listen to rock much anymore. I really don't listen to music that much.
I listen to music constantly, but what do you listen to? When you do, what do you listen to?
I listen to a lot of country. Sometimes I'll listen to modern pop. I listen to a lot of podcasts though. Like I'll listen to Joe Rogan. I actually hop on your channel a lot when you're live and I'm driving, and I'll listen to your channel mostly on road trips. I'll go back and watch some of your videos. I'll listen to Tim Pool, Sean Ryan. Those are just some of the podcasts I listen to.
Do you ever listen to one of my favorite podcasts is this guy named Dan Carlin. He did Hardcore History. Did you ever hear that?
I don't know who that is.
Guy's great. Like he goes through usually ancient wars and just does these 6-hour epic podcasts about them. They're cool.
So in 6th grade, I had a weird thing. I used to listen to Slayer every single day.
Listening to Slayer in 6th grade?
You know who Slayer is?
Yeah, of course. How'd that happen?
I don't know. I think my parents listened to it. I would just listen to Slayer and a bunch of other heavy metal rock bands.
It's interesting you say that though, because when I was your age, I actually
Green Day, Beatles.
No, Green Day would have been a couple years earlier for me because Dookie came out, I think, in 96 or 97. That was the Green Day. I listened to Dookie a lot. It was one of the first CDs I owned.
Really?
Yeah.
Are those your collections behind you, all your CDs?
What, over here?
Yep.
These are all books.
Oh, you read.
Those are before. I don't know if you remember that these were invented at some point in time. These have words in them when you open them up.
Yeah, well, I'm very familiar. I just wrote one. You can pre-order a copy at rittenhousebook.com.
You can. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you use promo code Rekieta, you can get yourself 10% off, right?
That is correct. You can use promo code Rekieta and get 10% off your order.
There you go, guys. You got to check this out. Rittenhousebook.com. Very simple. And we covered this the other day. It's short and sweet thing. One of my favorite things that you have is this line right here. My name is Kyle Rittenhouse. I was attacked. I defended myself. I was prosecuted. I was acquitted. That's just solid, good copy for marketing. I love that.
Absolutely. So
it's also true, which helps.
The hardest part of coming up with the book was coming up with the name of the book. And it was a toss-up. I had to ask for some advice on this. It was either acquitted or not guilty. And I ended up doing a poll with some private people, and acquitted won, but the name was going to be not guilty if acquitted didn't win.
Acquitted is a way better title. O.J. Simpson was not guilty. You were acquitted.
Absolutely. I was acquitted for self-defense. So going back to jury nullification, that is a great example of jury nullification.
OJ trial. He didn't do nothing.
If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. I went back and I watched that trial. It was a very interesting trial.
It's so long.
I watched the Netflix series of the trial that put the highlights out.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the entire one. I don't have time for that.
No one should. It's crazy.
I didn't know a trial can carry on for what? It was 4 months, if I'm not mistaken, 4 to 6 months.
It was forever. Like the timeline of the trial was a long time. There was some like time off, I think, in there, but yeah, it was like 4 months of actual daily trial. And it's like some of the examinations and cross examinations were like 4 days long for each witness. And you're like, oh my God, what the hell is this?
Yeah, and then they acquitted him, and I think they knew they were going to acquit him because it takes, if I remember correctly, about 25 to 30 minutes to fill out the jury questionnaire for guilty or not guilty, and they were done with a verdict in less than an hour. I think they reached one at 45 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
I think a big advantage for him was, I think they sequestered that jury too for that whole time.
Yeah, but every single one of those jury members came out and spoke about it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
they were in a hotel for the entire time. Imagine living in a hotel, because when courts put you in hotels, you do shared rooms with
an asshole.
So you don't know who you're in a room with. You're sharing a room for 4 months with somebody you don't know.
Yeah, and it's and you're just stuck there. You can't do anything. You didn't have cell phones or the internet really back then. You're literally just in this room, and they, you couldn't watch a lot of the TV channels because they were all talking about the trial. They were just there. I think that was one of his biggest, like, I would hate the government more than anything at that point. I'd be like, no, I hope he kills more people. I want him out. I want him out because you put me in here. Go after Judge Ito. That is legal advice.
That's not legal advice.
Isn't Judge Ito dead now? Like, I can say that, I think.
Judge Ito. That's a gray area.
Is he alive? Oh, he's alive. Don't go after Judge Ito. I figured life took care of that one.
Not legal advice.
It's I kid, of course. No, but I do think that the sequestering of the jury, like, when you're there,
I'm reading the chat right now, and people are saying it was a 9-month trial.
Amazing. How? But you're there for all this time. I do think you get to this point where you're like, you've taken me away from my life for this long. Now all I want to do is go home, and actually, like, you have not sold me on this thing hard enough. Like, that's the real deal, right? Like, you've not sold me on OJ being guilty hard enough for me to convict. And I almost think that that's kind of a negative aspect of the fact that we really don't sequester juries as much anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, while watching the O.J. Simpson trial, the prosecution made a lot of mistakes. If it wasn't in the heat of the Rodney King riots and Rodney King's brutal beating, he would have been found guilty, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It was a political jury nullification. It was a jury that was scared that there were going to be more riots, and it was a jury that was very, very well picked by my good friend, my personal friend, Joan Demetrius. She picked O.J. Simpson's jury, worked with the defense team. She worked with my defense team. She got me acquitted. She remains a very dear and close friend to this day. But we talked about that trial a little bit, and I'm not going to go much in because confidence stuff. Talk to her about this stuff in confidence, but very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So how that is one of the kind of interesting facets of what you went through as well, that you have these people, Mark Richards, Corey Sharafi,
You got it right.
just nailed it. Natalie Wisco.
Now go say it 10 times in a mirror.
No, he'll show up behind me and start asking questions. Isn't it true? Isn't it true, Mr. Rekieta? Oh God, no, not Corey. But no, you have these people, you see them all the time. You're on the phone with them all the time. You're constantly in communication. Then you go through this trial. It's very emotional. Like you make like trauma friends, right? Like in Speed or whatever.
Absolutely. It's sort of people that like they become a big part of your life. Like you're spending every single day with them, and like they know every detail of your life on like personal, they know everything. And it's just the bond you build that, being a criminal defense attorney, the bond you build with a client, because you're representing them, guilty or innocent. You get to know that person on a human level, and you build a connection no matter what the crime is that they allegedly committed.
Exactly. And that's to contextualize it with you, there's a whole bunch of people out there who only know you from this one event in your life. And whatever their opinion of you may be, they may think you're 100% justified. They may think that you're justified under the law, but maybe you shouldn't have been there or whatever. And then there's people who think that you're guilty, right? Like that, no matter what it is, but they know you from this portion. But what percentage of your life was that night in Kenosha? Like it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, right? Like you're not the guy who had to defend himself in Kenosha. You're Kyle Rittenhouse. That is a thing that happened, but you're not that. And they get to know that part of you, the rest of you, right?
Absolutely. I just saw a chat in the thing saying promo code Rekieta was not working. Try it with capital R, lowercase EKIETA, and it should work then. I just went in and fixed it.
Oh, there you go. Okay, guys, promo code Rekieta, capital R, and then normal case. Why is it lowercase? I feel like that's offensive to short people.
How tall are you, Nick? 5'3"?
Wow. We'll see who's taller when I meet you in person.
I'm 5'9".
Oh, I'm way taller than you. Yeah.
6'3", 6'2".
Yeah. 6'2.5", somewhere in there.
Wearing heels, 6'4".
Wearing heels, unstoppable.
People were making fun of you in the comments about your nose.
So I'm 6'2", but when I lay down on my back, I'm 6'7".
Okay. Good for you.
From my nose. It's like a sail.
If you just float on your back in the ocean, you just point your nose in the direction you want to travel.
Yeah, I have big nostrils, so like the wind just fills them up and just carries me away.
Yep.
I just can't ever see where I'm going. It's a problem. I always end up in South Africa. It's very dangerous. I love you watching you read the chat, by the way.
The chat is great. The chat is hilarious. You know how many people we have in here?
Yeah. So on YouTube we have 2,650, and on Rumble we have about 4,000.
Nice.
So it's and then a whole bunch more people watch it later, which is great. But no, I have a large nose, but everybody thinks I'm short because my camera. I have a stupid monitor. It's this like 43-inch monitor right in front of me because I have to see chats, right? And you got to be able to read them. And so my camera, though, is up above that. So it sits way up here and looks down. So I look short because the camera's at a down angle. Also, I learned from Instagram girls that makes you look less fat, which is why I do it.
Oh,
So when people see me in person, they're like, "Oh my God, like you're tall." It's like, yeah,
yeah, I
know,
just can't picture you being that tall.
it'll be funny.
Is your wife tall as well? Or
No, she's tiny. She's like, she's 5'2".
so did your children get your genes or her genes?
We'll see. I stopped growing when I was about 20. So I wasn't super tall going into high school. I got to about 6 feet as I was graduating. And then, yeah, I got to about 6'2" in college. So we'll have to just probably wait and see how they all pan out. Kind of weird. My oldest son's feet are almost the same size as mine though. So who
I don't
knows?
need to know your foot size.
Well, Wiki Feet does. Do you have a Wiki Feet, Kyle?
No, I don't.
Have your feet ever been online?
Nope. Nope, they have not, other than when you see me walking into court, my feet
Wait, that's in shoes. That's not the same thing, right? Like,
yeah, no, my feet have never been online.
that's good. Keep it that way, please. It's like all of a sudden Kyle's dropping feet pics all over the place. Very weird. Very weird.
Subscribe to my Instagram subscription only. Kidding.
Close friends only. So we were talking, sorry for the joke interlude, chat. We were talking about kind of getting to know these people. And I do think that's this interesting aspect because they do get to know you. And one of the things that is cool about how your situation has worked out, and I do not envy you at all, honestly, in how you were thrust into this place. Like I think you're working it well and you're doing what you have to do, but like you didn't choose to enter the world's microscope. Like it was put on you.
Oh, absolutely. I read about that in my book as well, like how I was thrust into this and how if this would never have happened, my hope was to be a firefighter paramedic and just live a normal life. And that's still my goal. Not necessarily a firefighter paramedic, but a normal life would be great. That would be amazing. Being able to um, go places without being recognized. I'm here in Florida right now. I'm staying at a hotel. I have a really big interview tomorrow. Not going to say with who, but huge audience.
Staying with who?
You'll have to see. I'll post a picture with me and him tomorrow.
Is it Fresh and Fit? Are you going to make fun of hoes on the Fresh and Fit show?
It is not Fresh and Fit.
That would be kind of funny though.
I've been invited on Fresh and Fit, but I'm not in that part of Florida.
You should go on the whatever podcast, not as Kyle Rittenhouse, but as your old TikTok handle or whatever.
But I was walking into my hotel. I just grabbed some dinner. Haven't eaten all day, and I'm starving. So I'm walking in. I have a meatball marinara sub, and this couple stops me, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you Kyle?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "That's so awesome." They wanted to play with Milo. So I let them say hi. And they're trying to get a picture. And I said, "I'm sorry, not right now." Because sometimes I say no to pictures.
Yeah.
But they were very pushy. I ended up taking a picture with them. But it was like a 20-minute conversation. I was starving. And I was just ready to go and eat my dinner.
20 minutes? That's very generous.
And it's like I'm very nice. I usually say, yeah, I gotta get going. You know, like I gotta go upstairs. There's been times where I've had interviews and I'm walking out of a hotel and like I'm already running late and I'm just like, hey, sorry to cut it short. I gotta go. And they'll try to keep talking. And I eventually just have to walk away. But that's what I don't like. I don't like having very long interactions, especially out in public, because it tends to draw a crowd and people start looking.
Right. Yeah. That's a weird balance because when people come up to you in the wild, you're like, you never know who they are. Right. Like, oh, you're Kyle. It's like, oh God. Like, what's the next thing? Right. What's the next words out of their mouth has got to be on your mind. Right.
Yep.
And then
I'm like always thinking, I'm like, what is this person going to say? Are they going to pull a gun on me? Are they going to try to stab me 22 times? They're going to try to kidnap me or lure me into their car with free candy or a second meatball marinara sub. What are they going to do?
Ooh. Yeah. What does it take to get you into a car? Is it a meatball marinara? What is the trick? Like,
Well, I talk about being a foodie in my book as well. I love food, as everybody can tell. That's my biggest vice. You can probably get me into your car with a nice meatball marinara sub.
Meatball marinara sub. that's that's the ticket in.
No, offer me some free candy or
It's not even that complicated. Oh my gosh. No, so what did okay.
somebody said ice cream. That's how you would lure Joe Biden into your vehicle.
No, you throw an 8-year-old with ice cream into the vehicle, and then
Nick,
Joe
do you
would
have
come sniff it.
something to confess to?
No, Joe Biden
Joe Biden, correct.
sniffing the 8-year-old who's eating the ice cream. That's how you got to do that. He just wants a Kyle. Okay. I do gotta ask though, as a sandwich, is your favorite sandwich a meatball marinara sandwich?
It's one of my favorites.
Is that because of Corey?
No. Have you ever had a Cubano?
Yeah.
That's my favorite sandwich. I love a Cubano.
I like them. I'm always hesitant to order them because they have mustard on them and I don't like mustard.
Always request light mustard. It's a different type of mustard. It's like a mustard mixed with mayonnaise.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea. Do
Sometimes
Cubans do that a lot? Like, is that a Cuban thing?
I don't know. It's just a really good sandwich.
I don't talk to Cubans very often.
It's my go-to sandwich.
Is it Cubano?
It's a Cubano.
Okay, I'm gonna message you because I don't know where in Florida you are, but I know there. Well, I know of one pretty good Cubano, but it's only in one place, so it probably won't help you. Because
Is it in Miami? Because I am nowhere near Miami.
No, it's near St. Petersburg. So, but I'll message you where it is. It's fine.
Okay, maybe I'll grab it on my way back.
The place has this really terrific like Cuban ham and bean soup. That's what I always get. Like I get that in the sandwich, and then my dad's always like, "Did you get me one?"
Like, espresso.
And I don't drink coffee at all. So
I know you don't. You drink alcohol, but you don't drink coffee.
No, I want to be drunk, not vomiting. I don't like the taste of coffee, and I think I would always go to
like hot chocolate. Cuban espresso tastes like hot chocolate.
They really always say that, but there's coffee flavoring in there somewhere, right?
Nope.
None?
Nope.
You promised this.
Well, at least for me.
All right, because I'll try one on your words. Like on your recommendation, I will try a Cuban espresso.
It's really good, and it's espresso, not espresso.
I know. I'm trying to stop myself, but I'm Midwestern. Leave me alone. No, but I love food. So are sandwiches your thing? Like, is that like your thing though? Like you're like, if I got to eat, I'm going to grab a sandwich, or is there something else? And do you like to cook? That's what I want to know.
I love cooking. Last time I was here, we were talking about, I made steak for dinner. A couple months ago, I was here. I cooked a nice filet mignon. It's just something I got cheap at the store. It was very cheap on sale at HEB. If you don't know what HEB is, you Midwesterners, it's Jewel Osco, essentially.
I have been to many in HEB, so I'm good. But you're down in Florida. You got that weird what's that grocery store chain they have down there?
Kroger.
No, Kroger's in Texas a lot. No, they have that. I'm gonna think of it eventually. Or someone from Florida in the chat will say it's green.
I know what you're talking about.
They're all over the place.
Oh, there's one literally down
Publix.
Publix.
Yeah. I kind of like Publix.
Publix has really good sushi.
I don't eat grocery store sushi because I don't want to be food poisoned to death. But no, Publix you can get a big jug, like a gallon jug of sweet tea at Publix. It's delicious.
Sweet tea in general is probably my go-to. I had mint tea right before the show to clear my sinuses a little bit. But
you should just eat like Reaper peppers or whatever.
I'm good. Thank you.
No, but as a former Wisconsinite, Chicago or Illinoisite person, you know that the biggest deficiency of the Midwest is a shocking lack of sweet tea.
Shocking. You have to when you go to a restaurant, they give you the sugar packets And you almost have to get a hot tea and request a side of ice so your sugar dissolves. Sometimes you'll get lucky and they'll have liquid sugar, but there's not really anywhere to go to get good sweet tea.
Yeah, you can only get it at like Cracker Barrel in the Midwest. That's the only place that
You
has
go to
it.
Cracker Barrel, you go to Popeyes or KFC.
Those don't count though, because it's like that's like hit or miss. Well, I had McDonald's sweet tea earlier because it's all it's around, and it's like this one was good, but sometimes they burn it, like they overbrew it. It's gross. But we're talking about these beautiful inanities, but the reason is because you are not a guy who defended himself in Kenosha. You're a guy who exists, who happened to defend himself in Kenosha. You
Who
have all
enjoys
these.
the same things that most Americans do: sweet tea, steak, and sandwiches.
God, that's great. I love sweet tea, steak, and sandwiches. I have this problem. I can't finish sandwiches.
Weirdo. I will be right back. I'm out of water.
He straight drops the weirdo on me. Welcome, by the way, to the Legal Mindset Raiders. Thank you for joining us. Kyle will be right back. Right now, we're talking about his culinary experience, his love of food, which he claims is evident. I thought he looked a little trim. But he's like, no, it's camera angles. I was like, okay, that's fine. But we will get back into things as we go. We're winding down the main portion of this. We'll start answering super chats as Kyle is able to. He does have some sinus stuff going on right now, so I don't want to keep him forever tonight. I'm really appreciative that he came on to talk about this. Remember, guys, one of the big things we're talking about here is Kyle's book. And the reason we're talking about food is he talks about food in his book. He talks about his dog in his book. These things are this other human element to someone who is caricatured into a legal issue, and not negatively. I want to reiterate, just because some people will negatively caricature Kyle into this person, this monster, as you look at some places on the internet, other people, even like me, who I love this guy. He's not back yet, so I can say all this. I love this guy, but no, stop it. He's not back yet. No, so no, I'm kidding. He's this great and genuine dude, but even I you automatically caricature someone into the circumstance that they're in. And this book is an opportunity to get to know these aspects and elements that make up who he is, but also are in a way kind of critical to his ability to survive this endeavor. And I don't mean the incident in Kenosha. I mean what follows: the media circus, the trial, this trial in the truest sense, not just the fact that it's a criminal proceeding, but a trial that he has to endure through his life that most people will never have to deal with. And the things that get you through that are not just your attorneys and your legal advice and your legal strategy, but the things that get you through that are the things that keep you human, the things that make you who you are, those things that you can go back to and go, today was really tough. I had to go and sit in a courtroom for 8 hours listening to people say I'm evil.
Miserable.
And then you go home and you can have a meatball marinara sandwich, and you can throw on a TV show or listen to a podcast or whatever you do. And you can remember that you're not a monster that you're painted as. You get to remember that you are you existed before this event. You exist after. And that's the stuff that makes a book like Acquitted so valuable. So guys, again, RittenhouseBook.com. Use promo code Rekieta. Don't ask me how to spell it. I don't know. It's on the name of the channel though. It's right there. You just find it. It's right here. Oh my God. It's so close. You can just use that promo code, get yourself 10% off, save yourself a little money, but also support Kyle because he's got a lot on his plate. And without getting into details, how many lawsuits are you in now?
I'm facing 3 lawsuits right now.
3 lawsuits. And are any of them with just you as a defendant? Or are you always a co-defendant in all of them?
I'm a co-defendant with like 20 different cops.
Right. And so these lawsuits are they're actually kind of long shot legal theories in regards to the police. And that's kind of to be honest, that's kind of the scary thing for Kyle, because there are all these sort of failure to act, failure to protect type lawsuits that result in some sort of harm that they're labeling as tortious. And police have actual insulation from failure to act. Government officials often
Qualified.
yeah, they have qualified immunity, and police officers in general. There's this case. It's we've done it on the show. I maybe need to do it again, but it's Castle Rock versus Gonzalez in Colorado. And it was this case where police officers legitimately failed to act on very good information and ended up with 3 children dead and a guy doing suicide by cop. And the mother of the 3 children, who had a restraining order that was supposed to be enforced by the police, it actually said that the police shall enforce the restraining order. They never did. They didn't do anything to act. And so she sued based on the restraining order's plain language. And the Supreme Court, the opinion was written by Justice Scalia, one of my personal heroes. I think this is one of his worst opinions. And he said that the police cannot be held responsible for non-action, that they can't, because it would destroy the police function. I disagree with that, but that's the conclusion he came to. So those defendants have possibilities of being dismissed out, whereas Kyle will likely have to fight through these things, even though he's kind of incidentally added to some of these lawsuits. So he's in this position to do that. And he has a long road to go. Check out his book, Acquitted. Support your boy, Kyle. This is a guy who faced impossible situations, impossible decisions that had to be made in split seconds. And he made them in a way that we would hope anyone would do so. And the worst part of that is, despite being the literal victim in every single scenario he faced, he was portrayed as something far worse than a victim. He was never given the credit by mainstream media that he deserved for this. And there aren't many places today out there that'll actually say that in the mainstream media. Even again, the Piers Morgan, who's coming across with this uncensored interview, and he's supposed to come across neutral. You can see it from the very moment, the graphic wording, how they labeled like who you are and all of that stuff, all of the tickers, everything is written in this way with this. It's like a nod to your acquittal and then a spit on your character. And it's so disgusting to see that be the persistent sort of portrayal of you. And so, guys, support him where he is. Buy this book. Learn about this guy, because he's more than a couple shots from a rifle, a lot more. And that's what we're talking about. Welcome back to the show. Sorry for my little diatribe.
Well, thank you again for having me, Nick. I also forgot to mention I'm suing Gage Crush Goods.
Oh, you are? Why? Did he damage your car when you ran him over? Or was that not you?
Not going to comment on that. That wasn't
of course that wasn't you. That was the joke. That was the joke. Is his name changed? He changed his name.
Yeah. Just because if I ever do change my name, I wouldn't want people to know my name. I know what his name is.
No. I just thought I had heard that. I don't care what his name is.
Yeah.
To me, he'll always be Gage.
I'll tell you off the record, but it's very interesting. Or you can just go do a Google search. I'm countersuing him for assault and attempted murder and a couple other things in the Eastern District of Wisconsin on these lawsuits, because he never faced any criminal penalties for trying to kill me. He's on the stand by his own admission saying that he chased me down and put a gun in my face. So
that
doing it.
He has some very interesting testimony.
His lawsuit complaint.
No, I haven't read his lawsuit complaint.
Does he mention the fact that he had a gun on him?
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, I do remember that. So maybe I have read it. I either read it or I remember reading that particular portion of it. Cause he goes through, he doesn't mention the gun thing, and that eventually came up, I think, pre-trial or in a pre-trial motion. But no, the thing that if I'm not mistaken, the cross-examination of Gage, poses some massive problems for him going into a countersuit from you, especially for assault.
Even on his cross-examination against Corey Shirafsky, Corey subpoenaed him on it and said, "Hey, you're suing the city of Kenosha right now for $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle loses this case and is found guilty. You have a better chance of getting $10 million in your pocket."
That's great. The other parts that were great, and you don't have to comment on this if you don't want to. I seem to recall a line of questioning to Gage around sort of the assault of you by an Anthony Huber, where Gage acknowledged that Anthony Huber hitting you with a skateboard would have been, right, and that was part of the entire thing that built your self-defense case from Gage's testimony. Corey did such a good job on that cross-exam. It built your self-defense case, but it also poses now this massive legal problem because everything Gage said about that attack in that cross-examination was him recognizing that it was an attack on you. And then he walks up to you and pulls a gun. It's like, wait, if you're recognizing that he's doing all the right things, then you walk up and pull a gun. That is not a defense of others scenario. That is an assault with a deadly weapon. And that's amazing.
Yep, absolutely. He admitted that on the stand. He tried to lie about it, and then we confronted him with video, and then he wasn't able to deny the video.
Yeah, it was a wild thing. You're roboting out for a second here, so I'm gonna give you. Hopefully, your connection will clear up in just a moment here. It's all on. It's on your end. I blame you.
Well, it's perfect on my end.
No, who knows what it is. But for a minute you're breaking up. So hopefully it'll clear up in just a second. But yeah, that's great with with Gage and countersuing him. I do think it's something that needs to be done. Not only did he never faced any criminal charges for what he did to you. He also had a subsequent DUI. And that entire arrest and night was on video, officer body cam. And those charges were just dropped, which was shocking. Like these charges, this is a slam dunk DUI case, and they just let it all go.
I read the complaint, and essentially why the judge dismissed it is because apparently in Wisconsin, you don't have to use a turn signal if nobody else is on the road, and he got pulled over for a turn signal violation.
So they said the underlying stop wasn't justified.
There was no probable cause for the stop.
Oh, I don't know about that. Well, okay. I'll say it. I think the case was dropped because it was Gage Grosskreutz.
Me too.
Personally. Yeah, there's no way, in my opinion.
Are you drinking a Monster now?
Yeah, well, I'm tired. Are you a hunter, Kyle?
Not really. I went pig hunting, hog hunting a couple weeks ago. You can go to my Instagram. This is Kyle Rittenhouse, and I posted some pictures from that hunt.
This choppiness is driving me crazy. Can you do me a huge favor? I hate to ask. Can you disconnect and reconnect to StreamYard?
So leave the studio and then come back?
Yeah. Oh, now that he's gone, let's talk all about him. Just kidding. Something happened. Like there was a specific moment where my StreamYard like glitched, and since then he's been roboting out. So I'm hoping him coming back into the studio will actually fix that. Like I don't know what it is. Here he is. Okay, hopefully.
Am I better?
A little bit. It's still choppy. This is weird.
You're really clear on my end.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it.
It's that Minnesota snow. It's blocking your service, your Wi-Fi connection.
It's fine on your end. Okay, so it's just me. I mean, that's cool. Well, I don't care if it's just me. Then I can discern I can discern your robot voice to me.
Yeah, people are saying you're the one that's cutting out.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. It's perfect for us drunk idiot. it's choppy coming to me, but what gets broadcast out by StreamYard is completely different. So that must be on my end, which is fine. I can deal with it because I can hear you. It's just like for me, your video freezes up and stuff like that.
Oh,
And I thought that's what's going out because I can only see what StreamYard shows me. I can't see what YouTube and well, I can kind of see them, but it's not what it doesn't matter. The reason I was saying I'm tired. I had a friend over. We live on 8 acres, and then we have a lot of like government land. And so a friend was out hunting on our property, and they tagged a deer with a bow today. And then we spent like 6 hours trying to track this stupid deer, following a blood trail.
so there's
For
a
like,
channel I watch on YouTube sometimes called Drone Deer Recovery, and they go out and they find your deer.
oh, that'd be awesome. It's
Midwest deer are something else. People underestimate it. They're like, oh, it's the Midwest. They have some of the finest deer out there, some of the biggest bucks, some of the largest does. The Midwest is really a good place for hunting.
I'm not like a hunter. This is my first time tracking a deer, but it was fun learning. Like I'm following a blood trail, and we follow this thing for like a half fucking mile, and we're searching around, and then the trail just like kind of gives up, and you're like, what the hell? Like there's got to be either a corpse or more blood, and then you just stop finding it. And we had 3 people out there looking, and it was exhausting. We're hiking forever, and never found this stupid deer. Must have, like, we don't know if it lived. We thought it was the person who shot it thought it was a fatal shot, but it was so I was out hiking all day, like
That's why you look exhausted.
yeah, well, yes, actually, it is because I only had like an hour of sleep, and then I wake up early, so I go to sleep late. Like I go to sleep at like 5 a.m. and
So
I wake
you
up
do these live streams very late at night.
right, and
You
even when I
have a lawyer sleep schedule where you don't sleep.
even when I don't sleep, or even when I don't stream, I'm still up till like 5 a.m.
Do
And
you
so
still practice?
what was that?
Do you still practice?
No, I don't practice for the 2 main reasons. One, it would take so much time away from my show to get a case because you have an ethical obligation to focus on your client, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And then 2, I'm not like this super like rock star experienced lawyer, right? Like I practiced for a couple years, solo practitioner, had some cases, got good results for my clients, but like I'm just a guy with like a couple years experience. You have to charge consummate to your experience and your location. I live in small town Minnesota, and the most expensive lawyers out here are like $250 an hour.
Mhm.
So what I would have to charge to like compensate for not doing my show is way more than my experience would merit. It would be, in my opinion, it would be unethical to charge what I would have to charge for replacement income.
Are you
So
still bored?
I'm still licensed. Like I could take a client now, but if I do help someone in any way, I do it pro bono. Like I don't charge people for legal advice. If I have to file a motion or something for someone, fine. I'll tell people right up if I do help them out. I'm like, I'm not going to take this to trial. If it goes past these like initial motions or like initial negotiations, then I'm going to refer you to someone to do trial. But I can't do that for you. I just don't have the time. And I would have to charge them way too much. So YouTube does give me the flexibility to help a lot of people on very small issues pro bono, which I love, but I just cannot, like, I can't justify what I would have to charge. Like,
Are you only licensed in Minnesota, or
yeah.
are you licensed in federal court at all, or any of that fun
No,
stuff?
I never needed to be licensed in federal court, just licensed in Minnesota. My practice was entirely like small town criminal defense. And then I would do contract review, contract drafting, entity formation and advisement, stuff like that. So, I'd help people get 501c3 status. I'd help people build nonprofits or LLCs and advise them on all of that shit. And then I would review their contracts, draft their contracts, review their rental agreements, all of that stuff. But like, that's the transactional stuff that pays the bills. And then small town criminal defense doesn't pay because meth dealers don't have any money because they spend it all on their own meth. Like typically. So but no, so like YouTube's been this great tool to do that. But I never like, I try to make sure I never misrepresent who I am when I'm watching a trial or whatever. I'm commenting based on what I know about law and what I know about people and what I know about storytelling and how I would do it, and things I would think about. And I get to do it from this luxury perspective of you can never, like, it doesn't get tested. Like, these are just my ideas about something, but we get to watch the professionals go.
And the cool thing is, when you do these things, what you say doesn't hurt the client because you can say whatever you want.
Right. Like when I made fun of how Amber Heard looked all the time, for example. Like we get to
do that in a trial. That was a very interesting trial.
Yeah, the Johnny Depp trial was really cool.
My dog stepped on a bee.
My dog stepped on a bee. And they're the worst experts ever for her. That was great. Someone asked me a question earlier in the chat. They said, shit. It was, when did Kyle do something? Damn it. I'm going to forget. It doesn't matter. It must not have been that good. Ask better questions, chat. No, there was, oh shit, we're at the 2-hour mark. Great. Speaking of that, would you like to take some questions from the audience? Are you cool with that?
Absolutely. Let's take some questions. We'll start with super chats first. I'll take some super chat questions, and then if we run out of super chat, I'll choose and my own discretion and through you what questions I'll take.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you, like, if there's anything like way out of bounds, I'm definitely not going to bring it up. But let's talk about I read this one while you were gone, but it said, why would a platform let a bigot have a place to speak? And why would a saint like Kyle visit him? Yeah, Kyle, why are you on this show?
Well, Nick, you're a pretty good friend of mine. I texted you a week and a half ago. I said, hey, next week, let's do a live stream. And then I got really busy last week.
So did I. I only did like 2 streams last week.
And then today is my only free day before I go on a very big show tomorrow. And I said, hey, let's do a live stream tonight. I understand it'll be late, but let's do one tonight, this morning. And we set it up, and now we're here.
Yeah, and I love the hell out of it. I can't wait till I get to meet you in person, because like that is something that needs to happen at some point. At some point, we're going to find ourselves in the same place. Techfall 15 says, Kyle, did you follow James Yeager or Tactical Response?
I don't know. I think I knew who Tactical Response is, but I don't know who James Yeager is.
Chris Benoit says, hi, Kyle. I'm sorry you had to go through what you did in Kenosha. You son of a bitch. Chris Benoit, no. He said, I myself had my own similar traumatic experience like yours. Hit me up if you want to collab and raise money for you. My son wants to be just like you. Stop it. Don't answer that. Blaze Uriart says, hi, hey, Kyle. I have an AR mag with you on it. Lol. By the way, me and my friends were celebrating when you were acquitted. Hope you are doing well.
Well, thank you. I will tell you what. I won't sign your AR mag, but if you go to rittenhousebook.com and pre-order a signed edition of the book, I'll go ahead and sign your book. I'm hand signing every single pre-order for signed book that comes in. That
is awesome. He also says, I'm literally going to law school so I can help fight the Bingers.
Oh, good for you. I wish you luck in your endeavors, and hopefully you become a lawyer.
Yes. Oh, there was a question, and I don't know if you want to answer it or not. I have my theories on it, and I've voiced them. But someone asked basically about the return of the firearm.
It was destroyed.
I think we talked about it last time.
Yeah, it was destroyed. I don't want anything to do with it.
Right. I've said my piece about why I think that you legally made the correct move there. I don't know if that was a consideration. I don't care if it was. I do think it was the right move to make, because you can always buy another AR, but there were some questions about ownership of that gun that just did not need any sort of fuel added to them. And I think that was the right move personally. Mr. B says, Kyle, is there a way to get an autographed copy of your book? I need one for my office. Yes. RittenhouseBook.com. RittenhouseBook.com, as we have talked about, you can buy the book you can go down here, pre-order a signed copy, and you can use promo code Rekieta, and you can get yourself a little discount on that. But go ahead and do that, or don't get the discount and just toss a couple extra bucks Kyle's way, which would be great as well. Either way, you want to do that, but you can get a signed book right there.
Absolutely.
Wood McGamey says, hello, Nick. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Likewise to Kyle. Hope you've been doing well also. So sorry for what you had to go through. That must have been absolutely terrifying.
It absolutely was. It was some of the hardest times in my life, and I'm glad I made it out on top.
Did they ever, there was, okay, so not to get like too, I hate the way some people treat this act. Like they treat it as not some, for them, it's a fucking movie. For you, it was reality. But so you were attacked by 4 people.
Yeah. Well, 4 people I had to use my firearm against in self-defense. Hundreds of different people chased me down.
Right. I think so. You had obviously the 3 who are the main narrative, but there's one guy, he Jump Kick Man, I think is the name that came out for him. Did anything ever happen with him where I feel like they located him at some point, but no, there were no charges or anything against him.
So behind the scenes, the government located him, and he was willing to testify. The government didn't want him to testify. We could care less if he testified. He wanted qualified immunity because he knows he was on video burning stuff down and rioting, and the government wouldn't give him qualified immunity. Didn't
he have like a pretty significant record as well?
A pretty big record, a fairly large one. You can go on to CCAP. It's, for anybody who doesn't know what CCAP is, it's Wisconsin's criminal case search. I'm still on there. Morgan Freeland, Jump Kick Man, he is on there with a very extensive background, a lot of things ranging from aggravated assault to domestic battery.
No,
yeah.
None of that
yourself.
It's such an amazing thing that, because like I think your situation says a lot about the crowd that was in Kenosha that night.
I mean, there were a lot of people who were there, and I didn't know what a lot of the people's criminal backgrounds were.
Right, you couldn't know that, really.
Exactly. I didn't know that. When I defended myself, of course, I've learned after, but a lot of them were violent criminals, if we're being honest. A lot of them had very bad charges.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing, because so many people watching the trial who may not know about like criminal procedure and how this stuff goes and court testimony, they just wanted so much for those things to be brought up. And for you, learning that later, was that frustrating to know that, like, if you could say who these people were, like, obviously you couldn't have known at the time, but if you could say it, the jury would be like, oh, well, these people are scumbag, like literal scumbags.
Well, I'm not going to comment on that one.
No. Okay. Let me rephrase that. Was it frustrating to know later about like these criminal things, but know that the rules of evidence, like, because obviously your lawyers would have told you that, yeah, we can't get this in though. Like,
I mean, we tried. We knew we weren't going to be successful.
You almost were with Anthony Huber.
We were almost.
Yeah, because of his aunt's testimony, which was baffling that the state brought her in to testify on his behalf. Like that, yeah, to me,
it almost opened the door. We stopped the state, because that's what you do in these trials. When you have a motion, you let them know, hey, if you keep going, we're going to go down these roads and we're going to subpoena your client on that.
Yeah, it was, that was wild. Because I remember we're sitting there, we're like, what are they doing? Why is this person here? She's a terrible witness to bring in. She offered nothing about the actual situation. She was entirely brought in to bolster his character. It's like, why would you open this door? So that was very weird. Okay. Curly Kaylee says, hi. Hey, Kyle, no question, but I'm from McHenry County. Followed your entire case from day one, sending love and prayers for you and your family. Tracy 3 says, when will the book ship?
So we're shipping December 16th. Sorry.
Really?
Yep, books are being printed right now, and they're going to be getting shipped out in the next couple of days.
Do you know? Do you know how great of a day December 16th is?
How great of a day is it?
That is my birthday.
Well, I'm going to have to ship you out a copy, Nick. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. But you know what? If you ship me out a copy, I'm going to buy 10 copies for you to ship out to random people.
Absolutely.
So we'll make that a deal. I'll buy 10 copies and you can either ship me one of those 10 or you can ship 9 or you can ship all 10 of them and ship me one free. I don't care. But yeah, I would love to contribute to what you're going through. So I don't know how to do that on your website, but I'll talk to you about it because
yeah, you can add the number of how many books you want to copy, and then we'll inventory it, and then we can either have them shipped to your address, or I can give you my address and have them shipped to me. And
we'll figure out how to do it because I would love to. Like I said, I want to support. Like, dude, what you went through is insane, obviously. And I would love to support you, but I also want to make sure that people can read your story. Because I think, first of all, writing a book's an endeavor. And second of all, it's like you're slicing off a piece of yourself and giving it to everybody. And so when you do that, people should get to read it.
Absolutely.
The rest of the chat from Tracy says, I watched the live streamer Reg Life that was right across from where you first had to protect yourself and the entire night unfold. I have and continue to pray for you since that night. So glad you were acquitted.
Thank you, Tracy.
Question for you. How is your family holding up with all of this stuff? Like, cause it is like, as much as you got thrust into the limelight, so did they.
I haven't really talked to them in a little bit, so I'm not sure how to give an update, just taking some personal time away from that.
Sure. So we can infer that it just, if nothing else, it does take a toll. It doesn't mean that relationships end or whatever, but it takes a toll. And it's that's another thing that people just don't consider. Like the accusation by the government alone is the punishment for so many people, right?
Yep, absolutely.
My Chaos says Kyle Rittenhouse DLC for the Alex Jones game when? Okay, I have to ask. First of all, I don't know if you played the Alex Jones game or know about it. I just heard about it the other day.
I haven't played it. I heard of it, but I haven't really done much research into it.
Have you played Acquitted?
No.
On Steam? You haven't played it?
I have not.
I played it one time. I'm not great at it. But I'm bad at video games because, like you said, I grew up when dinosaurs walked the earth. Madden Williams.
Atari.
I'm sorry, what?
You know how to play Atari.
Well, that's a little old.
Oh, same time frame.
It really was the same time frame. You know what? It hurts me, Kyle. My first game system was an Atari XE, but then I got a Nintendo. Okay. Then I got a Nintendo. Madden Williams says, hey, did that Binger Fluffer Boy stuff end up being true? I heard he is divorced.
I'm not going to comment on one's relationship.
I have no idea. I think if you want information on that, you should talk to the Kenosha County Eye guy. He's the guy who follows all of that stuff really heavily.
You can also just go into CCAP again and see if he's divorced just by searching Thomas Binger, because divorce records are on there as well.
Oh, they keep divorce records on CCAP?
Yeah, you can see who's divorced or not.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess if you want to find out if Thomas Claire Binger is on there, you could do that if that was something you're interested in. Jason of CGA says, congratulations, Kyle, on surviving and being possibly the best representation of a man when what that is in debate. We can only hope to handle the worst situation a fraction as well. God bless.
Well, thank you.
Kyle, are you a religious guy at all?
I would say I'm working on it. I believe God was with me and he's given me a lot of trials, and I know his plan is the right plan.
That's a great response. Hold on. Oh my God. I just blew over a village in Indonesia.
Oh,
No, Because people, so when I mentioned that I was going to be doing an interview with you, some people were messaging me and they're like, you have to tell Kyle, like, God's hand was on his shoulder, like
Oh,
God was guiding him through it. And I never want to like impose or ascribe a belief system to someone. So I wanted to ask how your faith walk has changed, or has it grown or developed, or is it the same since before the event?
well, I'm definitely looking at expanding it. I definitely want to be closer with God, but that's something I'm working on and something that I want to grow deeper in.
Yeah, it was such a thing, because that was something, and again, I am Christian. I know some people are like laughing and itching and burning from that, but I am a Christian who does believe in that. And like watching your scenario, I was always thought like if God does intervene, like, this has to be a point where he just puts his hand on someone, because like what would happen to you, and how everything worked out. And when I mean how everything worked out, everybody goes to like, oh, the shots and like the actions, and I go to the video. I go to the fact that everything's on video that night. I go to the fact that there's hours and hours. Like, your trial didn't even scratch the surface of how much video and photography and stuff was actually out there that night. Because a lot of it would have been redundant and repetitive. But thinking about that, how many people were filming? How much was caught?
I don't even remember off the top of my hand. Everything was on video that night. I was literally on video that entire night.
And the entire time, the government couldn't find anything to paint you in an actual negative light.
No.
Like, everything was a gymnastic stretch to try and make you into a villain, and they just couldn't do it. And it's like, that's the influence. That's the thing. Because everybody goes to like, well, you did these shots and whatever. And I don't like glorifying that moment in the way, because I know, as you've stated so many times, like how that's impacted you. This is you being at the point where one decision means you live and the next decision means you die at the hands of this angry mob. So I don't want to like revisit that. I hate the like glorification of the violence and the reduction of the scenario to this violence. But I look at it and I go, everything about that night has this hand on it that says, if anything had gone wrong, you go to prison. Like, the political environment was right to put you in prison, even if you were justified. If there was any way they could justify making you guilty, they could have. And it never manifested. It never existed. The best thing they could do was a pinch to zoom video. And even with that, it was not like, that was the biggest nothing burger ever. And that to me was that. So I've always been curious, but I was feeling uncomfortable asking people about that. So thank you for answering.
Thank you.
And by the way, if you ever want advice on your walk with God, I'll point you to other people who are better at it.
Sounds good to me.
Because I don't know if he drinks whiskey or not, but he should. Here we go back to so I got the big ones. We'll get back to the 77 Jerry 84. Thank you. RJ Spain 56 says, for Kyle, not for the big guy. C Goody says, buy acquitted here, RittenhouseBook.com. Tara Rayner says, who made the decision for you to take the stand? The only person who can make that decision, Tara, is Kyle.
Me.
He can be advised in all sorts of ways, and he has to be, and even if whatever decision he makes, this is an interesting thing we got to see. The judge has to kind of take you in aside and ask you if you had been properly advised on that, how that was done.
I mean, if you remember, the judge asked me a line of questioning. He was like almost persuading me not to do it.
He has to let you know, just in case your lawyer hasn't, that you have a constitutional right to not take the stand. Because if you take the stand and then later appeal saying, I was not properly represented, I was not given the opportunity to not take the stand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then that has a potential to mess up the whole case.
Absolutely.
But only the defendant can make that decision.
Yep.
No one can make it for him. Jeremy Wilson says Kyle is the GOAT. And that's like that's in all caps. So I think it means like greatest of all time or whatever. I don't know. I don't know slang. Nick Cornelson says, I'm looking forward to reading your book. All the best. V Radio, what compelled you to discuss your mother and your sister's personal lives in your book, meaning stuff not relevant to that night?
Well, I think it's relevant to tell my whole story of what it was like growing up and my experiences around me.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's what I was kind of saying, like while you were gone and when you came back, is like there's so much of you that exists outside of this night, and all of that matters to your experience.
Yep.
I won't, yeah, we won't go further than that right now because I think there's some weird, I don't know. I just got like a hint of some weird controversy that I don't want to like put upon you from that. Flashzilla 98 says, Kyle, what are your thoughts on Yellow Flash's favorite movie, Godzilla 1998?
I don't think I've watched it.
When were you born?
2003.
Oh, okay. Have you seen the redo of Healer?
No, I don't know what that is.
And Nick, can you play Eric July's message for Kyle? No, I cannot. We're not going to do that. Come on now. We're still on YouTube. We can't do that. Emily Wooten says, why has no one taken taxpayers' rights to see the federal court cases? To see federal court cases to Supreme Court. If you live there and make the line, you can be in the courtroom. No, Emily, I can actually give you the real legal answer for this. It's one of the most frustrating ones. The fake requirement of federal standing. Robert Barnes and I have talked about this a lot. Federal standing requirements are not in the Constitution. They were created. But basically it says that you have to have an individualized injury, and taxpayer rights are not individualized because all taxpayers are equally encumbered or unencumbered by laws. So you cannot have a generalized injury that applies to everyone the same. So taxpayers' rights are not a sufficient standing for federal court. So there you go. That is why taxpayer standing would not, or taxpayer rights would not be sufficient standing to bring an injury to the courtroom. Now, there are certain people out there who may have an actual injury in not being able to see a federal case broadcast on a channel and recorded. Someone who might like do that as a business. So, you know, maybe we'll see something about that. Cesar de Geronimo says, Kyle, did the CFP committee make the right decision?
What's the CFP committee? Remind me.
I literally have no fucking idea.
Nope. Asked at Kyle Rittenhouse, at least tell us you've seen the original Jurassic Park or Lord of the Rings. I've seen the original Jurassic Park and I've seen the newer one. I've tried to watch the Lord of the Rings. I was not able to.
You were not. Why weren't you able to?
It was so boring.
I'm sorry. What did you say? What did you?
You heard me.
Lord of the Rings was so boring.
It was so boring to me.
Wait, take off your hat again, Kyle, for just a second. No, okay, it's weird because what I expected to see when you took off your hat was I expected to see the sides and back of your head shaved and the top of it being a curly, poofy mess, like some sort of weird zoomer.
It was just super boring to me.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I got through 5 minutes of it, couldn't finish it.
That's cool. It's like one of the greatest pieces of literature, and then one of the better adaptations of literature to film that's ever existed. No, it's fine. What's your favorite movie, Kyle? Is it the Barbie movie?
Absolutely. You know, when that came out, I wore all pink. Kidding. So my favorite movie, that's a great question. I really like Grown Ups or anything with Adam Sandler in it. Adam Sandler is the greatest actor of all time.
Oh my God. Oh, I have so many jokes I want to say and like can't say them right now. Like I want to, instead, I'm just going to shove this into my body. Right?
No,
like I'm just going to do that.
Look, I don't have the ability to end the live stream.
It's okay. My editor will do it eventually.
35 minutes in.
Oh my God. So Adam Sandler movie, that's you're like, and Grown Ups is the one you pick?
Grown Ups,
not like Little Nicky or Waterboy or Happy Gilmore or something.
Waterboy's really good.
Waterboy's great. I'll give you that. Waterboy is good. What about Click?
Click is good where he has the ability to pause everything.
Yeah, how many times have you watched Spanglish? On a scale of 500 to 1,000, how many times have you watched Spanglish?
0.
0. What about Let It Happen?
I don't think I've seen that one.
That's the one with where he's
Uncut Gems is good.
Jennifer Aniston is his like assistant,
I
and
don't
he's
think-
trying to bang Brooklyn Decker. That one.
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I only got time for a couple more questions. I do have to be up pretty early in a few hours.
Are Adam Sandler movies like? I just need to know. Are Adam Sandler movies actually your favorite movies?
They're hilarious.
God damn it!
I love comedy movies.
I really hate public schools right now. Drop Barracuda, there's a bunch of love for you out here in Texas, and not in a weird way or anything. Tara Rayner Schrader, after his fall, he really screwed with his last criminal trial. Zach Anderson is in prison. DA Gravely pulled similar shady stunts as Binger. Drop Barracuda, if you read the lyrics to Rage Against the Machine's Down Rodeo, Kyle's case and actions follow the lyrics in a different way than they were written, but still with the same sentiment. Nazer says, is Kyle gay?
No.
Are you still dating? You were last time I had you on the show, you were dating that one girl.
I'm not talking to anybody at the moment.
Okay, no, that's cool. Very Chadley of you. Drop Barracuda, he has the right to be a little salty if he wants. The Under Armour Gamer, will this ever be on Audible, Kyle? Your book?
Potentially it will be on Audible.
Drop Barracuda says, Kyle, especially if you're in Texas, hit up Joe Rogan. He'd 100% have you on. It's nice to speak up for Joe like that, Drop Barracuda. Have you reached out to Joe? Would you?
I'd go on Joe Rogan Experience.
But would you comment on Joe's UFC commentary?
I don't know if I have the knowledge to do that.
Do you like UFC or anything like that? Is that something you're interested in?
I mean, it's very interesting to watch. You have two people fighting, and it's just very interesting.
Critical Orc Theory. Oi, House Written Kyle crossed mortar lines with an assault magic and slain one of our only albino orcs. Lock him up in a dungeon. Damien Gersh. You would know what that means if you watch Lord of the Rings. Damien Gershwin says, I was always fat between the legs. Wait, what? B.S. Simon, the best thing to happen to Piers Morgan was Clarkson's punch. Jeremy Clarkson punching him. Okay, so I got the opinion you're not a big fan of Piers Morgan after that interview, or at least how he handled himself in that interview.
Well, I just don't think it was a very professional interview.
Well, but you're like on a very unprofessional interview right now.
Well, I know this is an unprofessional interview. The guy's wearing a suit.
But see, Piers, like he gives the air of a professional interview, right?
Yeah, but it was.
But then he doesn't do it.
At least with you, I know, like, hey, we're just going to be around having a conversation,
right? Like, because to me, that's how I do things. Like, I don't know what else to do. I know a lawyer who went on the Piers Morgan show, and he had no idea what he was getting into. And afterwards, they asked him to come on for a separate incident, and he said, "Only if I get to punch that cocky asshole in the face." It's awesome. Critical Orc Theory. Skater orcs are an endangered species, Kyle. He says, slay me halfling, albino orc. Come on, stop it. J-Rock says, Kyle, can we get some more dog? Oh, you're supposed to ask me why I don't like dogs.
Why don't you like dogs? Are you a freaking monster?
Yes.
Milo, come.
How long have you liked dogs?
My entire life.
I didn't know you were a white girl, Kyle. It's a joke. No. So how long have you had Milo here?
I've had him since he was 10 weeks. He's now 3.
Wait a minute. What's the timeline on that?
I got him in November of 2020.
Is that after the incident?
A couple weeks. He was born November of 2020. I got him in like January of 2021, actually.
Okay, so that is after the thing. So did you get him as not as like a therapy dog, but as like a therapeutic sort of endeavor? Like this is a companion I can have. And
I got him he's actually a service dog. He helps a lot with my PTSD.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't think people take you seriously when you say you have PTSD. Do you run into that a lot? Like
sometimes, but I don't think people see the background of what I do struggle with and having a hard time falling asleep and waking up with nightmares. I just saw a comment that said Milo is chill. He is one of the chillest golden retrievers out there.
it's that's an interesting.
He's literally sleeping.
There was such a frustrating thing with Piers Morgan. If you'll let me expound on it for just a minute. I was so angry because he's like, you're so young and you did this thing. Like, I won't get into it too much, but it just showed how fucking naive and stupid Piers Morgan is in the scope of human history. Because like he tried to make your age matter to the human experience of trauma. And what you went through is unquestionably traumatic. But yet, like he brings up that you were 17 when you did this, when this happened to you. But like throughout all of human history, there were people much younger going through very similar things, and not like in offshoot instances. And it pisses me off because it was all part of how Piers framed the interview. He framed the interview as you got acquitted, but still, and that's what made me mad. I hate that. How often do you run into that with interviews? And do you know going into it that those are the interviews you're going to face?
Not a lot, because I tend to only do media who's going to be friendly. I'm going to start doing more, as you would say, left-leaning interviews. My only thing is it has to be live because I don't want to give them sound bites.
No editing. Yep.
So I'll do left-leaning interviews. My requirement is it has to be live, and all of them want to tape it.
Yeah, of course they do. They want to get rid of the fact that they have no idea how to deal with someone who's like a reasonable person. They want you to be a monster.
Absolutely. Well, I have room for maybe one or two more questions, but I do have to go to bed. I don't stay up until 5 in the morning like you, Nick.
I'm not trying to keep you. Here's one. Here we'll do one comment and one question. Really Now says Nick should read your book as Binger for the Audible version. I'll do a Binger impression and bring it.
Maybe.
Ann Bell Feinstein says, what was your writing process like? Did you have a writing coach? What was the hardest thing to leave out? And what was your favorite scene to write?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the hardest things to leave out.
Obviously.
I let those out for a reason.
Yep.
Going through the trial was very difficult, having to relive those moments. And it was long. It was long and it was exhausting. It was a lot of late nights and late meetings with people. It was long.
Did you have a writing coach? Did you have someone to mentor you through this? Or is this something you've always kind of had an interest in with writing?
Well, it's an autobiography. So sitting down, telling my story.
Okay. So you tell the story and then someone, ghost writes it for you. Like they put the words to paper in a way that translates what you say into a readable text.
Sort of like that. It's a little more complicated than that part.
Well, I'm like, okay, I guess it is. I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you. Dude, let me let you go. You've been so gracious with your time. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, guys, RittenhouseBook.com, promo code Rekieta. Get yourself a little discount on the book, or ignore the promo code, buy the book, send the money to Kyle if you can afford it. But believe me, like I want to give everybody access to everything at the lowest price. But if you got a couple extra bucks and it's not a big deal, forego the promo code, buy the book. Kyle is facing something that most of us will, thank God, never have to deal with. And the reason he's facing it is because he was put into an impossible situation while trying to help people. He had to defend himself, and he was vilified for having the audacity to live. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's crazy. He's a good dude. Dude, I appreciate you so much. I can't wait for the day when we end up in the same place and I can buy you all the meatball marinara subs that exist.
Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you for having me on. And thank you guys, audience, for keeping it somewhat, no, not PG. Thank you guys.
PG-13 at least.
Yes, PG-17. Thank you guys for being a good audience, and thank you, Nick, for having me.
Cheers, brother. kill your interview tomorrow, and we'll see you soon. Guys, I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to let Kyle go. Thanks, man, for showing up. I hope you have a great night, great show tomorrow, and I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you, Nick.
Everybody, peace. There we go. What a genuine and great dude. Like all around great dude. Could have been like, again, you could have gotten anybody in that situation. Anybody in that situation who could have been a cocky asshole. It could have been someone like me, right? Like could have been boisterous or whatever. Like, yeah, like they could have taken that in an entirely different direction. He ends up being this like humble guy who just wanted to do his thing and help his community. And he's maintained that. He's been that same Kyle the whole time. We've never seen him waver from who he is. And that's the best. That's actually who he is. And it's frustrating to see him with these narratives and this vilification thrust upon him. It is frustrating because he's just a guy. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is we're going to read the rest of these chats, which I thank you all for. And then I'm going to go to bed because I've only had in the past couple days, I've only had like, I had good sleep Saturday to Sunday. I think it was. But then today I've had like 2 hours of sleep total. It was a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and go to bed. We will be back to streaming on YouTube, Rumble, and Locals tomorrow. There's an off chance or an on chance, I'm not sure, that I will not do a show on Wednesday. I have something that may be up in the evening, and I may not be able to do a show on Wednesday. I'm not sure yet. If I can do a show on Wednesday, I will. But Thursday, Friday will be fine. I'm just not positive what my Wednesday night looks like and if I'll be around for a show. So I want to pre-warn people that may not happen. But tomorrow there will be a show. Thursday there will be a show. Friday there will be a show. Last week was actually an anomaly. I intended to have shows every day, and then a bunch of stuff came up. It was wild. Okay, here we go. A dollar store napalm says, "Hi, Kyle. I actually had an opportunity to meet you a few months ago, and I gave you a book. I was just curious if you read it or not." I didn't see that question. I would have asked him, but what I will say, dollar store napalm, without forcing Kyle to answer that, please don't ever ask someone if you give them a book if they've read it. Because like it feels really bad to lie to people and say you did. But when people like come up and give you a book, you really appreciate what they do. Like it's like so nice that they've done this thing. They thought about you. They're like, I want to give you this book, or they bought it, or they wrote it, or whatever, and they give it to you. But you're so fucking busy. And you're like, I have 100 books on my list of books to read. And I haven't gotten to those yet. And then someone gives you a book, which you're like, thank you. And they're like, have you read it? Have you read it? Have you read it? And you're like, oh shit. You don't want to make people feel bad. You really don't want to make people feel bad. But you also, like, you have a bunch of books on your list ahead of that one. And then someone gives it to you and it's like, well, that one has to go to the front of the line. You're like, no, please. So I don't want to, like, I never want to make someone else be, but I'll be the dick and just say, please don't ever. Someone who does like media and social media and does all these interviews and is like running around scrambling, trying to protect their life. You give them a book. That's great. Don't ever ask them if they've read it, because the answer is no. And they really feel bad about that because they would love to just read it, but they don't have time. So there you go. Not cases. What's your thought on Morgan Freeland, AKA Jump Kick Man? We talked about him a little bit. IDK anymore says, Kyle, will you come to India? I have village and many food and women. I share with you. Yes, we love Kyle, Mumu, Olga, and Thunderstrike. Yes. I endorse that, even though I don't speak Indian. Examoon TV says, gonna watch the VOD later, but I wanted to say Piers Morgan is a colossal faggot who can't moderate a fucking debate. If his life depended on it, he can't help himself from getting involved. Salami Slices says, hey, Kyle, I'm one of the few Zoomers who watches this guy's show. Do you think 40 cal is cool? Also, what's the word on signed copies of the book? Signed copies of the book, RittenhouseBook.com. You can get them. X-Moon TV says, MAGA Show 12 is the ghost of Gabe Groskowitz's forearm, which is why he's behaving like a vagina and Rumble Chat spamming like a silly, desperate woman. X-Moon says, good night, Nick. Maddox made a website about you, by the way. Nick Rekieta is not a blackfacelawyer.com. So funny. Everybody's like, you got to talk about the Maddox thing. And I'm sitting here going, I want to so bad talk about the Maddox thing, but I'm way more interested in Kyle Rittenhouse and his story. I think it's way more important. Tomorrow, we're delving into Maddox because Maddox has given us a gold mine. The gold mine is Maddox has finally, after 6 fucking years, decided to talk about the lawsuit. It's been 6 years. We have to do it. We have to do it. He's put out a 2.5-hour video. I think it's going to take me at least 2 full shows. At least 2 full shows. Maybe I'll bring a guest on. I don't know. And yeah, there's a whole section of the video donated, dedicated, and given to me. Because in 2018, I demanded 100% seriously an apology from Maddox for calling me a blackface lawyer. He said, I have never practiced law in blackface. I demand a retraction. And finally, I have won. I have gotten it. I've gotten the retraction from Maddox. I am not a blackface lawyer. We'll be discussing all of this stuff. It's so much fun. I can't believe he did this. I cannot believe that he did this now. We got to go through it. I haven't watched it at all. People are just sending me stuff about it. And I'm like, oh my God, you can't be serious that this is real. But it is. So we're going to be talking about that very soon. Jason of TGA says, Scott Kesterson of the Bards of War speaks of the path less traveled being the better way demanded by Jesus. And I see Kyle as walking that way, whether he chose it or not. Atticus Kane says, hey, Kyle, good to see you back and that you're doing well. I have a quick question. Do you think Paul Bunyan is a kaiju? Kyle's not here to answer that. He's not from Minnesota either, so he can't. Yes, of course. Of course, Paul Bunyan is a kaiju. Emphasis on the Jew. J Rock says, Kyle, please ask Nick why he hates dogs. There you go. Stephanie Tam says, how are your parents handling everything? Not you, Nick. Yeah, you're talking to Kyle. He said he's kind of on a break from family. He's not talking about much. Xander says, why is it not promo code NOS? Well, the long and short is he didn't ask me what promo code to use. He just said promo code Rekieta. And I was like, oh, cool. I don't want to like burden him. Russell Hall says, Kyle lost my Twitter for frequently mentioning a charity that I set up offering to pay women to perform fellatio on you. What compensation would you offer? Come on. No, I couldn't ask him that. Oh my God. First of all, that reminds me, have you guys seen that thing where it's like the hose for veterans or whatever? Where they just, like that's the whole thing that they do. No Pelnup says, update on my case. Judge order return of all property. Last is expunging arrest. Hey, Kyle, to an extent, I understand. Oh, excuse me. The trails you went through. Keep doing great. I didn't want the government to have mine. F them. Pony Up says, do you game at all? Saw someone with the profile Rittenhouse on Modern Warfare 3. Would you be down with a skin of you in Call of Duty? Only if it was black. Wait, shit. He's not here. I can't say that, even as a joke. Ann Bell Feinstein, wait, read that one. Pixel 78 says, is there a way I can get a book sent to Australia? I have no idea. Pixel, I'll have to ask. Xander says, Nick, you're going to order 5,000 of his books, right? Lol, no. Bird Bath Bash says, whatever happened to the husband-wife instigators that fired the first shot? Zeminski or Zelensky, whatever their name was. Nothing. It's been a weird absence of shit. Tara Rayner, I'll never forget the acquittal and the final not guilty. And a bald and giraffe seat hugging you as a mom was so moving that you had him there. Prayers. Annabelle Feinstein just pre-ordered. I love that you wrote a book. I'll proudly display it on my bookshelf after reading it. Audiobook, Kindle. Tara Rayner. Oh, and Kyle, you ever come to Canada? I'm Nick's favorite Canadian. You come see me, Ontario, Greater Toronto area. I'm going to give you a giant hug. Lost in Law says, Kyle, you're the inspiration for me to go to law school. Wait, I thought I was. My background is technology, and I remember slapping my forehead from the pinch to Zoom. He also says, strangest, most unique interview, Kyle. Well, we're not going to talk. Banjo's Easy says, I bought a signed copy of your book. Thank you for your strength. You're wrong about Lord of the Rings. Ellie Fan says, yes. Adam Sandler's, God, Ellie Fan, every time you talk, you're disappointing. A serious man. So please donate this money to Kyle's movie education fund. Fire PA says, Kyle, you're turning 21 soon, right? How are you celebrating? We'll leave him be on that one. Jason TJ, I'm with Kyle. Frodo is a ditherer and spends hours wandering through New Zealand's fake countryside. Well, that's true, but it's still great. Eric, by the way, you got to give credit to the Lord of the Rings movie series for making the Two Towers good. Because if you're not a book, God damn it, this fucking the top right of this cord came on. So I gotta fucking get pliers. If you're not a book, if you're not a literature or whatever, the second book from Lord of the Rings is so fucking slow. It's so slow. It's meant to be. That was intentional, but it's so hard to get through. It's a slog because what Sam and Frodo are going through is a slog. The second movie can't be a slog. Movies cannot be painful. And what they did to make the Two Towers not only great, but in my opinion, the best of the three films. Like, I know people like Return of the King because they're stupid, but Two Towers is so good. What they did to make that the compelling movie of the series to me was really, really great. They fucking nailed it. Erikaya says, worst takes in Lofty Pixels. I agree. Hans One Pack says, Kyle's favorite movie has to be Reservoir Dogs. Great movie. Hans One Pack says, would Kyle take the mushrooms and weed on Joe Rogan Experience and talking about the purple fairies? He can't answer that. Come on. Koof says, thank you all for not killing yourselves. I agree. Please do not. Guys, I do occasionally deal with people sending me things about ending their life. And I'm like, please don't kill yourself. Please, like, there's life exists. Kara Frost' thoughts on Maddox's video with you having a whole section. I haven't watched it yet. I just heard about it. So I apologize to you like he's scared. Maddox isn't scared of me. And he shouldn't be. I'm still a Maddox fan. And I gotta say, guys, Maddox's apology to me, where he created an entire website with not a blackface lawyer, or Rekieta Law is not a blackface lawyer.com or whatever it is. I could not have asked for a better apology than that. That is Maddox. That is the perfect Maddox. It's why I was always a fan. And Maddox calls me a stalker, which is rude. Very rude. I was always a fan of Maddox. I'm still a fan of Maddox. I think he's great. I think the one problem that I ever had with him is that he just didn't answer Dick Masterson. I was like, Maddox, stop being you. No, wait, stop being your autistic self. Be you. Be Maddox. Be the funny guy, because that is the Maddox that everybody likes. And his apology to me that's fucking pure 90s Maddox. Get it, girl. I love it. Bella Stella just gifted 10 memberships. Thank you, Bella. Ellie Fan says Lord of the Rings is boring. Ellie Fan, you're boring. Lagarnicus says, Nick, been a long time since I've caught you alive and tipped you. Thanks. Why the hell do you keep getting caught in gay drama? Dude, it's because I let people say what they want to say. Like, if you want the honest answer, I just let people say what they want to say. And that's it. Since I do that, people say what's on their mind. Me, I'm just a smiling, laughing guy. Lagardicus says, Nick, oh wait, shit. He says, Kyle, if you're still here, we love you, buddy. Piers was always a cunt. Stay awesome, dudes. Fire PA says, Kyle, did you follow or hear about the Zachariah Anderson case in Wisconsin? Look, I didn't even want to badmouth Schrader with Kyle on the show. Not that it would affect him, but like, look, Schrader presided over the case where Kyle was acquitted. He has to like what he did. He has to do it. Thinking Schrader was wrong would mean potentially that his acquittal was wrong. So I didn't want to, but he kind of asked me to say something or whatever. So I gave my opinion. Said it's okay to disagree with me. I'm like, I know it is, but like Schrader did a really shitty job at times. He really did. And the Zachariah Anderson case is really bad. And it's not that Schrader changed. It's that Schrader was just himself. He's not the best judge. But I love that Kyle likes him and likes the results he got, of course. That's why I didn't want to like get too much into it. Aussie says, Nick, any Aussies that want to copy can hit me up. I'll help arrange. Oh, shit. Xander says, have you read Ethan's book yet? You mean Cyberfrog? No. Jack of the Dead says, Kyle, what do you think of this picture? You know what? Fuck you, Jack of the Dead. There's a picture of my fat ass. Sanglet says, the fix for unsweetened tea is honey. No, the fix. No! I fucking hate the honey aristocracy. Drop Barracuda says, by the way, Rage Against the Machine song Down Rodeo, as in Rodeo Drive. The lyrics, can't waste a day when the night brings a hearse, so make a move and plead the fifth because you can't plead the first. Oh, I think Doug Tenaple quoted that on Twitter the other day. I always liked Rage Against the Machine until they become gay. Singlet says, a fix for unsweetened tea is honey. Wrong. Rumble username says, Rekieta Law, could you ask Kyle if he knows the appropriate way to apply a tourniquet to treat a head wound? He does. The tourniquet to treat a head wound is to put a tourniquet around the penis of the person with a head wound because they won't know what you're doing and they will become trans and you'll make their life better. Drama Dog says, so Rackets, I trust you've looked at those photos. Just broke 220. I haven't looked at them yet. I don't look at photos of men, but I will. Just broke 220, hoping to be down to 200. I feel like it's 6'2". That's a good weight. It can be. If I had bigger shoulders or whatever, 200 would be a great weight for me. I've now hit me with a scornful fat shaming to keep me motivated. Love you, brother, and I appreciate your service. You just broke 220 and you're trying to get to 200. Well, that's cute. You're trying to get down to 200 pounds. Well, why? Why did the fat ass retard committee come out and tell you didn't qualify yet? You piece of shit. You're trying to get down to 200 pounds, just down to like double a reasonable weight for a woman and 1.5 times. What? Oh, you're 6'2". I'm 6'2", therefore I can be 200 pounds. You're 6'2", so you eat 62 donuts, 62 slices of cake, or 62 slices of Oreo cookie ice cream cake from Dairy Queen, you fat piece of shit. Oh, well, I can. I 200 pounds. Oh, can you? Can you? Why? Why? Because you have 200 pounds in your fucking stomach? If you're 200 pounds and 40 of them isn't in your dick, I don't want to talk to you. Get out of here. You're pathetic. You loser. You've never met a treadmill that you could walk on. Elephant says, sorry, I was bored and fell asleep listening to you. Yeah, well, Elephant, welcome to every super chat you ever send me. It's where I get bored and fall asleep reading it. Quarter Native says, I'd to know what Kyle thought when he rewatched and saw Lunchbox sharing Grosskritz's testimony. What he thought when Binger pointed the weapon at the jury. And C. Goody says, buy acquitted here, RittenhouseBook.com. RittenhouseBook.com. Again, promo code Rekieta. Guys, this has been a phenomenal show. I love you all. I didn't do a Rumble flip today because on direct examinations, I don't. Thank you for hanging out with me and Kyle. Thank you for all the super chats, even though I told you like I don't read them in the first couple hours. Really appreciative of Kyle for being able to be on here. I know he's a busy dude. And I told him, I'm like, I clear my schedule for you. And then I canceled like 3 shows last week, which I felt bad about. But go watch my Saturday show. If you don't know, I did a Saturday show because I really did not want to cancel Friday show at all. I didn't want to cancel Thursday show. I like canceling Tuesday show because it was me and Lady Rackets on a date night. So that's always important. But Thursday's show was canceled because of a good thing, but I didn't want to cancel it. Friday's show was canceled because of bad things, but I didn't want to cancel it. Saturday's show was good. I enjoyed it. Had a good time, and I thought it was a good show. So make sure you check it out. It's actually got a shitload of views, which is kind of weird. And this show, Kyle Rittenhouse, guys, I try to bring an interview that you don't get anywhere else. I try to make it be insightful, lighthearted, and all of that, but without doing the, well, you shot 3 people, didn't you? Fucking narrative that these media shills want. They just want Kyle to answer the same questions he's been answering forever. Well, how did it feel to shoot 3 people? He's like, I have PTSD. Same thing he said before. I have PTSD. It was traumatic. It's awful. Shooting people isn't like a thing that people want to go through. Financial Sassiness says, are we better men of our forefathers or of our sons? Yes. I don't know what that means, but yes. Anyway, I am going to go to sleep. I'm on like 2 hours of sleep for the entire night. I need to wake up tomorrow and get some rest, have a good day, all of that stuff. Make sure I'm ready for tomorrow night. Because if I try and do a local show and then all that stuff and stay up as late as I normally do, I'm going to have real issues. I need to go get some rest tonight. But I will see you guys tomorrow for a normal stream plus locals. I think we're going to spend some time on Maddox's video. And if people don't want that, good. Don't ever watch ever. But I do try to bring you a unique interview to everybody. And I didn't, when Kyle first messaged me, he's like, hey, can we, like, do you want to do an interview about my book? And I was like, yes, I want to interview about everything. Interview you about your stupid love of Adam Sandler movies, you weirdo. I didn't know about that. So that's a lie. But like, I just think he's a cool dude. And I want to talk to him and learn more about him. But it's like, yeah, I want to interview you about your book. Of course, I want to help you sell your book. I want to do all this. I think he's great. I didn't think I was going to do a direct examination interview of him, but I thought, everybody else is going to ask Kyle specific questions about his book. They're going to ask about the shooting. They're going to ask the Piers Morgan question. How did it feel to shoot people? Like, fuck off. I could ask him those questions. Anybody can ask him those questions. Let's just talk to Kyle and see where it goes. So I wanted to do the direct examination format that I've developed, very open, very directed by how they answer things. And I wanted to bring you something that I don't think any other interviewer would do, as I always want, because I'm tired of fucking everything being the same. Why go do 15 interviews if all 15 of them are the same fucking question? So hopefully you got something different out of this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you like it, share it. It's full. The full episode is up on Rumble and YouTube. The direct examinations, I don't split them. So you can share whatever link people like, so to speak. All right, guys, I need to go to bed. Valhalla waits. Says, get wrecked gravelly. Are you talking about my gravelly voice? That's just my fatigue. Like literally, when I'm tired, my voice is like an octave lower. And I'm like, God, I wish I sounded like this all the time, because I sound like a man instead of like a pussy. But it isn't to be. All right, guys, I'll catch you tomorrow. I hope you have a good night. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, by the way, you faggots, shit, I'm on YouTube. You fucking cunts. If you did like the show, please click the like button. YouTube has almost 2,000 likes. Fantastic. I love that you guys love this show, especially when we have someone like Kyle on. Rumble, you're really lagging behind. 730 likes. YouTube has almost 2,000. Click that like button. Guys, if you like these interviews in the way I do them, click like. If you hate the interviews in the way I do them, tell me in the comments. Tell me I'm a bitch. Tell me whatever you want. I don't care. I mean, I do care. I'll read them. I might mock them. I might disagree. But tell me what you want. I know so many people had no faith in this interview because of whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, I'll do the interviews. But if you like this style of show, if you like the guests that we have on, click the like button. Tell me about it. YouTube is telling me they love this fucking show. They love Kyle as a guest, love him as a person, and they'll tolerate me. Rumble, you got some work to do on that. Please do it. Let me know. If you don't like it, do not click like, and definitely leave a comment. I love angry comments or whatever. Ellie Fan sent a sleeping thing. Oh, well, Ellie, I have so many jokes for you, but what I'm going to say instead is I bid you all adieu. Have a good night. Peace. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some lost-plaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, to make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an Ardbeg, a Balmore, a Lafroig, the spirits blow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Doug T to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the tea post on Twitter, as we hear lost-plaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, to make the